She's alive.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, February 7th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1110.
This is No Agenda.
Testing the fire alarms and broadcasting live from the capital of the Drone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I'm now self-identifying as an American Indian, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
No, you see, the point is you're supposed to do that on your entrance to things, not when you're exiting everything.
Oh,
there's no benefit.
I got the memo on that.
That is truly one of the most beautiful stories of the week. Elizabeth Warren.
Somebody digging up an old form that had her put down American Indian as race.
What a hit job.
It was, yeah, I'm thinking Roger Stone.
No, Stone's out of commission. There's people who have learned from him, though.
Yeah, must be.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Elizabeth Warren, who we actually called Pocahontas years before Donald Trump, so we had to stop doing it.
Yeah, because it looked like we're sad. Being derivative.
Yeah. And we, so on top of the DNA test, on top of everything, I actually have I have her apology. Do you have anything you want to play from?
Yeah, I have a couple of clips, but you know, one of the things I was thinking about before I play these clips is that she was born and raised in Oklahoma, where there's a lot of people believe that they're Cherokee or some other, Oklahoman tribe is their ancestry.
Sure.
So I decided to look her up for her, because this is possible that somebody's told her this and it was believable because she
that's her story.
had an Indian look, the high cheekbones.
Well, hold on. But this is exactly what's in my clip. So I'll play this as that you can hear her apology, which is exactly this.
But before you do, let me just continue.
Okay.
So I went and looked up all her old high school pictures to see what she looked like in high school, to see if she looked anything like an American Indian. Maybe, just a little bit of somewhat,
the cheekbones.
Anything.
Mm-hmm.
No, not even close. She's actually gorgeous as a high school girl. Very attractive. And then she she very slowly evolved into that certain kind of look that liberal women somehow get, this kind of a weird smile.
Did she always have the short hair?
No, she had a variety of
hairstyles. See, I think that's what it is. It's the short hair, the bob. That's kind of the trademark.
Well, you mean when she turned liberal? Well, the problem is that the most liberal-looking picture of her is
it's not just liberal, John.
No, I'm looking at her wedding photo, which is the one where she looks the most like the snotty liberal that you run into. These girls are know-it-alls. And, she's got all of a sudden has developed kind of the only way to people out there have maybe more sports or inclined. She has that John Elway smile, which is like this forced kind of oval smile, which is very classic. And he came from Stanford.
Oh.
And yeah, she's got a kind of a bob. And her hair was long earlier, and then she got this look about her.
Well,
but none of it looks Indian.
But what you just said gives me an out for her. She can be on the Wheaties box. She looks like a sports star.
Are you looking at her pictures?
No, I'm not.
No, she's got the smile of a guy who's, but she doesn't look anything like a sports star.
I'm not looking at her pictures.
My clips probably include her because I do have the same. I think it's within these two clips I have. But play yours, and we'll see where we go.
Okay, this is from Fox News, where they broke away to get specific questions about this latest controversy, where she handwrote her race as American Indian on her Texas bar exam application.
Prompter.
By the way, I think it's Shep Smith, and this was Steck who sent me this clip. You can hear at the beginning, this is something you don't hear often, but this is very typical of television, where they're coming out of the break, and the teleprompter has not yet put up the text. And so I think this is Shep Smith, and he's going, prompter, prompter.
Prompter. Elizabeth Warren is...
You hear that?
Yeah.
I love those moments. Oh, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to say. Prompter.
Elizabeth Warren is speaking about her history of claiming Cherokee Indian heritage on applications and otherwise. The most recent instance in the news, her application for the Texas bar, wherein she herself wrote exactly that, as witnessed here. Warren started speaking during the commercial break, so we DVR'd it for you, and we'll play it from where we began recording. Listen.
So, Senator, why did you list yourself as an American Indian on this Texas bar application? The president has made the case that you've used this part of your background to get ahead. Are you saying that this is something you fundamentally believed about yourself, or how do you respond to that criticism, that this was a knowing attempt to get ahead by using that claim of ancestry?
So that is a claim that has been fully investigated. And it has now been shown completely that nothing about my background ever had anything to do with any job I got in any place. It's been fully documented, and there's no evidence of any kind other than it had nothing to do.
Are there any more documents or any more forms like this out there that you have listed yourself as that could come out?
Look, this is who I grew up believing with my brothers. This is our family story.
Yes, it's the story. But I think she's lying when she says that it's been documented and investigated, that she never had any benefit.
Nobody cares. Nobody's documented and investigated anything. They're just using it to write her.
Yeah, you're right. What am I even thinking?
But let's listen to the big boys talk about this.
Yeah.
And I have the two CBS in this case. There goes the Zephyr, by the way.
On time.
The CBS version, and it's about how she's actually rewritten. This is very much worth whatever. I don't know what kind of phrase I'm trying to come up with there. But it's
wasting our time on? Is that what you're saying?
Trying to get to something here.
Using valuable airtime, it's worth it. No, I take your word for it.
The senator from Massachusetts apologized today after a decades-old document surfaced that shows Warren declared herself to be an American Indian. Nancy Cordes has more on this.
I'm not a tribal citizen, and I should have been more mindful of the distinction.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren apologized today for listing American Indian as her race after being accepted to the Texas Bar Association in 1986.
This is who I grew up believing with my brothers. This is our family story, but family stories are not the same as tribal citizenship, and this is why I have apologized.
Warren launched a presidential exploratory committee in December.
I'm in this fight all the way.
But she's been dogged by her decision decades ago to list herself as Native American at the University of Pennsylvania and Harvard University, and drew fire from Cherokee tribal leaders last year when she tried to put the issue behind her with a highly publicized DNA test.
What do the facts say?
The facts suggest that you absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
Hold on a second. We followed this very closely. This is a rewrite. She's rewriting history. The fact was, when she had her DNA test, it turned out that there were no real Native American genomes, anything that they can compare her to, and they had to use South American markers. And so the best she could do is have a couple of ticks off the box from some South American tribe or the Incas or who knows what they were talking about, or I don't know. But now she's making it sound as though, oh, wait a minute, yeah, you have some, you definitely. Where'd this recording come from? We never heard this before. Some bogus recording of a guy telling her.
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
No. Yes, we most definitely did. This was her, it was either her husband's brother. It was some family relation, and he worked at the DNA company, and he's not. I don't think he's even qualified to analyze it. And he's the one that got on the phone in that hokey video they did. And hold on, here's that bit again.
And drew fire from Cherokee tribal leaders last year when she tried to put the issue behind her with a highly publicized DNA test.
What do the facts say?
The facts suggest that you absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
I love the facts suggest. That's the best part.
The facts suggest that you definitely.
Yeah.
No, that's actually, the wording is fantastic.
Yeah, the facts suggest that you definitely.
You have definitely. How does definitely and suggest work together?
Fact check false.
Well, anyway, so she got herself in a heap of trouble here, and then now she's rewriting it to make it sound as if it wasn't for those damn Cherokee tribal leaders,
yes, who don't recognize her,
she'd be good to go.
Yes,
when it's bull crap. Oh, but anyway, so she's in a. This is a problem for her, but she might be able to. It may, blow over, and she can still maybe take a shot at things. But I don't think so. But let's play part 2, where they kind of just put some icing on this cake.
The facts suggest that you absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
The chair of the Republican National Committee filed a grievance with the Texas bar today, saying Attorney Warren should be disciplined for lying.
She has no Indian blood.
But many Democrats argue the real controversy is the president's ongoing racial insensitivity when talking about Warren.
Okay. Pocahontas, I apologize to you. I apologize. To you, I apologize. To the fake Pocahontas, I won't apologize.
Warren insisted today that she wasn't seeking special treatment when she listed herself as Native American and that she was never hired because of it. But it could complicate her next job application because, Jeff, she is set to formally launch her bid for the presidency in just 4 days.
And she's really going to go through with the announcement. It really seems like she's going to try. Just ignore this.
Well, she made a huge mistake when she didn't run against Hillary or take the. I mean, she would have won. I mean, everybody you
think
talk
so?
to.
I don't know.
You should talk during that era. I paid careful attention to people like Mimi, a lifelong Republican, she was all in to vote for Elizabeth Warren.
What does Mimi think of Liz now?
She thinks she's a big phony.
Oh, okay. All right. So dodge the bullet. Excellent.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have gotten anything done because she's a big talker and no action woman.
Well, but we're in this situation now.
But by the way, I want to mention that CBS managed to turn it on Trump somehow.
Well, of course. What else is new? But we're in this interesting situation, and I'm referring specifically to Virginia, where it's become so easy to discredit almost anybody based upon what they've done in the past. And, thanks internet, thanks storage, thanks to scanners.
Yeah, thanks to technology.
Thanks to technology, really.
The only person you can elect for elective office has got to be the biggest dud ever.
Well, you take a look. So we have this, the governor who appeared in blackface, but then he said, no, that wasn't me. I did do blackface once. And Michael Jackson, a dance contest, which I have to say, coming from the Netherlands, I remember in the late 70s, early 80s, when Michael Jackson, just when he still had the afro, there were tons of dance competitions at schools, and there was always some kid who would be, in blackface with the big fro wig and would dance their ass off, and we'd be like, oh my God, it's just like Michael Jackson. And, now, of course, I have, all kinds of privilege. But at the time, it didn't seem like anyone, it just seemed like there was less inflammatory. I don't know.
Of course.
And,
well,
we had black kids at
Thanks,
school.
Obama.
It was the Netherlands. We had black kids. We still have the Black Pete's. There's you got to put some context into it. Blackface, the Al Jolson blackface minstrel show is very different than emulating Michael Jackson or any black person for that reason, which is why Jimmy Kimmel and Fallon are very quiet right now. You haven't heard them make a lot of jokes about Ralph Northam in Virginia because there's tons of video of them doing skits in blackface.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I do have the rundown on this situation, the latest, which included the third guy.
It doesn't. Now, are these hit jobs too, or is this just? I mean, where is this coming from?
I don't know, but the punchline, this has got a punchline to it. It's a little long for a clip, but I believe it's from CBS, and it has all the up-to-date information. Every time I was clipping this all during the week, it's like oh God, they got a new guy. Oh, another third guy's involved.
Reclip.
So let's do hilarious Virginia mess.
First, it was the governor. Then the lieutenant governor. Now the state attorney general. The top three leaders in the state, all Democrats, all facing deep controversy. The latest is Attorney General Mark Herring, who admitted today that he once wore blackface at a college party. Ed O'Keefe has more on the chaos in the Commonwealth.
I'm going back to my office.
Virginia Democratic lawmakers were in no mood to discuss the latest scandal to rock Richmond. Attorney General Mark Herring admitting that he also once dressed in blackface. As an undergraduate in 1980, he said in a statement he and friends went to a party as rappers. We dressed up and put on wigs and brown makeup. He added, I have a glaring example from my past that I have thought about with deep regret in the many years since. When word reached the State House, there were audible gasps and expletives from staffers. Some lawmakers hung their heads in disbelief. And this from the head of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus, Lamont Bagby.
Like I said, we're not praying enough.
The scandal rocketed all the way up to Washington.
I'm shocked and incredibly disappointed. This has been an awful week for Virginia.
Today's bombshell comes just days after Herring called for Governor Ralph Northam to resign over a racist photo, including a man in blackface, that was discovered on his medical school yearbook page.
I am not either of the people in that photo.
After that news conference, Herring had said it is no longer possible for the governor to lead Virginia. Northam remains out of sight as he contemplates his political future. He's meeting with black leaders and may hire a private investigator to prove it's not him in the photo. Then there's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax.
Hold on. Now, where's Al Sharpton? Where's Reverend Al?
He'll be around.
I mean, all this guy has to do is pay off Rev Al, and then Reverend Al will bless him and hug, and it'll be a big press conference, and he'll be good to go. But I don't think why Reverend Al's not here suddenly, or maybe he is.
Nobody knows. Maybe these guys don't know how the game
how it works.
Yeah. And may hire a private investigator to prove it's not him in the photo. Then there's Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, who's facing an allegation of sexual assault during the Democratic National Convention in 2004. Today, his accuser, Vanessa Tyson, put out a lengthy statement saying she's a Democrat and is sharing her story with tremendous anguish. She says she had gone to Fairfax's hotel room to retrieve documents and that after consensual kissing, Mr. Fairfax forced me to perform oral sex on him. Fairfax has repeatedly denied the allegation and responded today, saying, reading Dr. Tyson's account is painful. I have never done anything like what she suggests. As all three men consider their next steps, Virginia's line of succession states that if Northam steps down, Fairfax would take over. Then Herring. And next in line, Republican Kirk Cox, Speaker of the House, where the GOP has a one-seat majority. In a twist worthy of the movies, the race for that one seat ended in a tie.
David Yancey.
And was decided when the name of the Republican winner was pulled out of a ceramic bowl.
What does ceramic bowl have to? Was it a white bowl?
It was a bowl with they ended up with a tie at the end of the legislative session for who's going to a Democrat or Republican, whoever wins, and it was a tie, a perfect tie. They would pick the name out of a bowl, and it was the Republican. So the Republican's a guy by one vote who gets to be the next governor if all these guys fall apart, which is possible.
But this was a porcelain bowl?
Ceramic.
Oh, I thought toilet.
Ceramic bowl.
Ceramic bowl.
The reason you say ceramic bowl is because that has the implications of a toilet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well done. Good reporting.
Yeah, that's the CBS.
So now this does
the ceramic bowl system.
This does give a different slant. If we now, after these three guys are annihilated, now a Republican could wind up governor. This is a move.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great move. Oh man. Yeah, this morning, someone on Twitter, which is I think a phrase I use a lot. Someone on Twitter, who I just forgot, tweeted out a clip of The View from 2016. Joy Behar defending, this is 2016 now, defending her costume where she dressed up as an African American.
In the New York Times, they had an op-ed piece in praise of naturally curly hair. They say that it's making a comeback.
When did it leave? I've always had curly hair.
That is
Y'all
a feminist statement.
Huh?
What are you...
No, is that you, Joy?
Oh.
Just showing the picture?
You know, this picture.
Oh, Joy, is that you?
Yes.
Joy, that is you?
Yes.
Joy, are you
Wait.
black?
No, I know. I was so cute. Joy. How cute I was.
Are you my auntie, Joy?
That is me.
My word. What year is this? Circa
I
what?
was 29. It was a Halloween party. I went as a beautiful African woman.
Oh, yes, you ain't black.
But that's my hair. That's my hair.
That, you can be, yeah, but it is. So the whole point of
why
it is
are you
that curly
upset with
hair
me
is
now?
coming back.
That is me.
Did you have tanning lotion on,
A
Joy?
little. I had makeup that was a little bit darker than my skin.
It's going to fix it.
But that's my actual hair, though.
I love it, though.
Do you hear the obsession with, well, it was just makeup a little darker. It wasn't really blackface. And my hair's really curly. I didn't do anything wrong.
Wow, that's a great clip.
It's kind of sad.
I like to have seen that clip because you'd have to know if Whoopi was on the
No,
panel.
she was not. Sadly, she was
Whoopi,
not.
broke up with Ted Danson for showing up in blackface once when they were dating.
Oh, I forgot about that. You, jeez.
So Whoopi would have gone off on her.
Oh man, but the end is not near because. Now, the New York Times even wrote a reason, it was an op-ed, but an article how Mary Poppins is racist.
What?
Yes, Mary Poppins is racist because Nanny, was it Nanny McPhee?
I don't know the story.
Oh, it's a beautiful story, and it's coming back.
Yeah, I know that.
When they go down the chimney. Her face gets covered in soot, but instead of wiping it off, she gamely, I'm reading from the article, she gamely powders her nose and cheeks even blacker. Then she leads the children on a dancing exploration of London rooftops with Dick Van Dyke's sooty chimney sweep Bert. So, and this is quite...
that's the old show they're talking about.
Yeah, well, yes.
Is the new one, does he come down in blackface in the new movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Is it even out? I don't know. I haven't seen the new movie. But
I'll bet she doesn't.
But come on. Forget if it's a.
Well, I'm just going to take the side that if you're going to call everybody out for doing this.
Oh, well, of course.
Whether it's new now, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, whenever, including blacks who did it. Most of the minstrel shows, the blacks had to put on blackface just because it'd be darker, which really revealed in a recent Broadway play which documented all this era. It's like you're either all in or you're all out. That's why I think the Black Pete thing is going to be done for.
Let me see. I'm looking at this article. The Black Pete thing is never going to be done for. The Dutch won't allow it.
Yeah, they put up with a lot. It's going to turn out that Black Pete is contributing to global warming. Well, he's out.
Well, there's that for sure. Global warming. Yeah. It's sad. Well, at this point in history, we've come to this.
Well, it's sad, but it's quite funny.
Well, for our show, it's dynamite. Yes,
humorous side.
Of course.
I mean,
for our show, it's great.
You got to be laughing.
Yes, exactly. I would like to stay with the candidates for 2020 for a moment, and I'll start that with a jingle.
Tulsi Gabbard, anything but haggard. She got my vote, then again I should know her chances are slim up against the MAGA hatters.
That's Dom Sweeney right here in Austin. It's more jingle than her political career will be, I'm afraid. It's kind of over.
For who?
For Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh.
Yeah, poor Tulsi. So now NBC came out, I think we may have discussed this on Sunday, and had a report from New Knowledge, the Austin-based company that wrote the bullcrap report for the Intelligence Committee, which no one references that anymore. No one says, hey, by the way, these a-holes who then subsequently got deplatformed from Facebook because they were using the same Russian tactics they reported on to the Congressional, the Senate committee. They used the same tactics in the special election in Alabama. They got deplatformed for it. But yet these guys somehow are now credible to say, we see websites and bots tweeting about Tulsi Gabbard. Looks like the Russians are on her side. She's got to be, she can't take her seriously. She's Putin's puppet. Poor Tulsi.
Who?
Putin's puppet.
Yeah, Putin doesn't know who she is.
And if the hit job couldn't get any better, David Duke just endorsed her. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
This is fantastic.
He's got to be working for the other side.
Yeah, of course he is.
Can you imagine? Okay, Dave, here's what we want you to endorse. Just the Kiss of Death Endorsement Company.
Yes. Ooh, Kiss of Death Endorsement Company. Is that an acronym we can use?
Let's see. Yeah,
Kiss
maybe.
of Death Endorsement. Codec. I like it. Codec.
Yeah, Codec.
The Kiss of Death Endorsement Company. Well, luckily, we have Democrat, liberal Glenn Greenwald to push back on this. And here he is. And he actually, he did something that I've never really heard him say, or I don't think I've ever heard him make this kind of accusation when it comes to a political fracas.
So they claimed in a screaming headline that predictably went viral that she was the Kremlin's favorite candidate. One of the reporters who wrote the story tweeted that the Kremlin has a crush on Tulsi Gabbard, something that, if it were about a Democratic favorite, would be denounced not just as adolescent, but also sexist.
Yes.
And, of course, this is all part of the broader context where the Democratic Party has this maniacal obsession with Russia. If you try and debate anything with them about the war in Syria or the ongoing viability of NATO or troops in Afghanistan, they just start babbling about the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin and accusing you of being a Russian agent. It's like some kind of like neural malfunction or a mania at this point. And what's amazing is doing this to Tulsi Gabbard. She was a Democratic star just 4 years ago when she was first elected. MSNBC said the first Asian woman elected to the Senate, to the House in U.S. history. She's an Iraq war veteran on the fast track to fame. They made her a vice chairwoman of the Democratic National Committee, and now suddenly they're smearing her as an asset of the Kremlin using extremely dubious journalistic tactics for which NBC has become notorious on behalf of both the CIA and the DNC.
I've never heard Glenn Greenwald accuse that and link it to the CIA. That's kind of a first for him. I like that.
Yeah. Well, he wrote a long article on this in The Intercept.
Yeah.
And it went on and just condemned all this practice of trying to destroy Tulsi Gabbard.
But in the article, he did not mention, he doesn't have the background on New Knowledge. That's the part that he's missing. He's missing that these were the guys that wrote the report that was heralded by everybody.
Well, he did slam New Knowledge in his article.
Yeah, okay. Well, yes, but I think, I thought he could have expanded a little more. I have a second. He was on Tucker, actually, from his hideout in Brazil. I have this second clip about the neocons moving from the right to the left. I thought it was just worth taking along here.
In 2014, and you can go Google this, there's an article in the New York Times, an op-ed by someone who has tracked neocons for a long time, saying that it was clear that there was rising isolationism and anti-war sentiment in the Republican Party, and neocons were therefore migrating back to the Democrats, especially in excitement over the prospect that Hillary Clinton would be the nominee for president in 2016, and that she essentially has a neocon foreign policy. She supported the war in Iraq. She supported regime change in Libya. She was highly critical of Obama for not doing more in Libya, for not arming anti-Russian factions in Ukraine. They love Hillary Clinton, and they were migrating back to the Democratic Party. So Democrats have become reunited with neocons. So anyone who deviates from the neocon agenda, whether on the left or on the right, instantly gets accused of being an asset or a stooge of the Kremlin. And that's what they did. And NBC, in this case, relied on a firm that just got caught 6 weeks ago fabricating Russia data. They got kicked off Facebook for doing it. And that was NBC's leading, quote, expert for claiming that chatter shows that the Kremlin is now favoring Tulsi Gabbard.
There you go. He still missed the report part, yeah. Anyway.
And he's kind of right. You know, the funny thing is people don't realize that the neocons, all these warmongers that took over the Bush administration.
Bill Kristol, who else?
Well, Bill Kristol, the guy that Wolfowitz, whatever, the guy who became the head of the World Bank. It's a whole bunch of them. And they're all identifiable. Everyone
John Bolton. How about that? John Bolton.
Yeah, John Bolton's one of them. They're making some headway into the Trump administration. I don't know why Trump is.
Yeah, we do know because they're all involved in weird sex shit that they can't talk about.
Oh, that could be. Whatever the case, they were originally liberal Democrats from the 60s, the 60s style liberal Democrat, which does involve often from that era, the pre-AIDS era, a lot of kinky sex.
Exactly.
And so they evolved, and the Democrat Party didn't want these guys, and so they all became Republicans. The party thing was a non-issue to them. They just wanted to cause havoc, create war, take over the world. They wrote papers about it. You can read about American New Century, I think, is one of them.
A Project for a New American Century.
That one.
Which is the PNAC, which is the document that said we need a new Pearl Harbor. Maybe someone could fly an airplane into the World Trade Tower.
Well, I didn't say that specifically, but that's what they were hinting at.
It came pretty damn close.
So yeah, that's good. I get those guys out of get them. Well, actually, they should be out of. They should have formed their own party.
Who?
The neocons.
The neocon party sounds like a winner.
I think. Hey,
vote neocon. You know, I bet you, someone could twist that and make people buy it. I think it's doable. A little bit of Bernaise sauce on there, and you're good to go.
It just takes a lot of Bernaise.
Before we get to the State of the Union, which we do need to talk about, I'd like to preface it with a couple of short clips from Pod Save the Privileged. I'm sorry, Pod Save America, which is
this is your new beat.
Yeah, I've been listening to some podcasts and getting some stuff. So these are the Pod Save America, very, very successful podcast, although I think they're doing some weird stuff because they don't have a show every day, and they had a show the day before the State of the Union. Didn't have one the day after. Didn't have one today. And they're doing these shows on the road, and so they can't record. You know, they can only record when they're on stage.
Too hard, huh?
But they're making a lot of money. I mean, doing these theater shows. I mean, that's bank. Yeah. That's bank for them. But, you know, and you can hear they're kind of tired of like, okay, we're going to travel here, travel there. That's really their main income. Although I do have, we can decide if we want to play it. I do have one of their live reads. But we'll start off. This is pre the State of the Union from Pod Save the Privilege is what I call them now. And, they're former speechwriters for Obama, two of them. And so they start talking about speech writing. And, and I don't know anything about speech writing. I know that Obama had some great jokes. He could deliver Humpty Dumpty and it would sound great. But these guys kind of take all the credit for that. Sure. But they also like to slam Trump's writer in advance of anything. And here it is.
Stephen Miller is such a bad writer. Does this like offend you guys as former White House speechwriters? As someone that can't even put together a sentence is writing these things?
I mean, it's hard to get past the racism with Stephen Miller.
Well, yeah, so that sucks on a lot of levels.
That's up front, so you don't usually get to the fact that even if he weren't so racist, his writing would be really bad for a speechwriter. Just a bad writer.
Right. Like if this was a normal Republican president, Stephen Miller would have applied to be speechwriter, and his would not have made it out of the first pile because there would have been a pile of better speeches. Yeah. And then they would have been like, that racist guy? Yeah. Well, we didn't even get to that when we were declining his speeches.
George Bush's policies, horrendous policies. Michael Gerson, pretty good speechwriter.
Yeah.
Great speechwriter.
Choosing greatness is like a bad motivational speaker you might hear at halftime of a high school football game. That is the theme.
Now, I don't know much about writers, but
Well, I don't know much about high school football games, except I was in high school once, and I don't remember any motivational speaker coming out and giving us a big pep talk. What school did these guys go to?
I'm sure some privileged preppy school. I don't know, but I just thought, if you're a writer, is that how you talk about other writers? I guess you do. I guess writers
yes.
do. Yeah. The answer is yes.
Not all writers do that. It's really the sleazeballs that do that. And there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, they're on this show.
Yeah, they lord it over everybody. They just condemn the other writers that are they condemn the competition is what it amounts to. And that is what the fact that they'd air that in public, because it's usually always behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's kind of weak.
That's beyond weak. That is very lame.
Yeah.
And it is extremely douchey. These guys are douchebags.
Wait for it. So now they're going to talk about the Democratic answer, the counter State of the Union, by Stacey Abrams. That who did it?
Stacey Abrams. The one who lost, they bring her out. That's the best they can do.
Well, listen to the hagiography they perform on her.
The Democrats have chosen former Georgia House Minority Leader Stacey Abrams to deliver the response to Trump. Guys, how tough is this job? What do you think of the decision? And what do you want to hear from Stacey Abrams?
I think it's an inspired choice.
Same.
She is one of the most exciting candidates who ran last cycle. Unfortunately, she did not win, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have a bright future in the party.
Great choice, and she's brilliant. We love Stacey Abrams. I would say it is a very, very tough job to do this. The speech that she gave on election night, and then the follow-up speech she gave when she refused to concede, when she accepted the results but refused to concede, were two of the best speeches I've heard from a Democratic politician in years. She is brilliant.
She also just wrote this really fantastic piece in Foreign Policy magazine, of all places.
It is brilliant, and I defy someone
go to be seen.
I defy someone to find a politician who writes in that kind of academic style so brilliantly in either party in politics today.
It actually, what I appreciate about it is actually it reminds me of, she's not writing it to make a case for herself as a candidate. She's saying, here's what I believe. Here's a kind of politics I ascribe to that will guide me in the future. And it reminds me also of a lot of the early writing of Elizabeth Warren that was not geared around helping her win, but just sort of laying out an ideological case for a kind of economic politics. And this was laying out an ideological case for a kind of identity politics that she just defended in a really thoughtful and smart way.
Yeah, she's so inspiring. She's just the best writer ever. You should read this piece if you haven't in Foreign Policy magazine. It's about identity politics and how it's good and it brings us together. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, Foreign Policy is the magazine you read if you want to see what the Council on Foreign Relations is up to, what they're trying to push.
Well, maybe that's why she's there. It seems like she's being pushed, because when I looked after the State of the Union, I saw, of course, after the Democratic response, she's a rising star, she's great. Chuck Schumer wants her to run for Senate. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Well, I've seen her talk. I've watched her. I don't know what the fuss is about.
No, I didn't.
I'll go read her material, and
by the way,
which I doubt she wrote.
By the way, tell me she wasn't on green screen. She was totally on green screen.
I didn't study it. I didn't watch her live, and I was watching it on the computer.
Oh, you've got to see it.
It's a window.
It's so pathetic. They had to. I think here's what happened. They had her in a room. And it did have I don't think it was a green background. It was a background. And it just felt really dead. And so they said, we got to put some people behind her. And they had this B-roll footage. And they keyed her on top of it because it wasn't green screen. The outline of her hair, her whatever she was wearing, her jacket or the sweater, you could see it. I mean, I've been around television long enough. This was superimposed. And it's just like, par for the course, you phonies. Couldn't even get a crowd in to have her do this speech, which is about her and her family and her dad. And I guess it was inspired. And
inspired by what?
Yeah, well, inspired by.
I'm looking in the mirror. I'm inspirational.
And then I think we can play this. The Pod Save the Privileged boys go from all this hoity-toityness straight into an ad.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Oatly. Oatly is the vegan, plant-based oat milk originally from Sweden, now available in the U.S.
Sound like they're really into this product.
Actually, this is really an ad for the Crooked Media.
Talk about the ringing of insincerity.
Wait, it gets better because they're going to try and play it off as it. Well, listen to this. Here we go.
Actually, this is really an ad for the Crooked Media ad department. Because look at Oatly. They invent oat milk in the 90s and managed to make more than enough of it to keep Swedes happy for 25 years. They bring their nice little oat milk to the U.S., run some ads on the pod, and boom, they get cleaned out.
They probably thought running an ad on the pod would make their lives better, just to introduce a few Americans to oat milk. But it made their lives a lot worse. Now they have to build a bunch of oat milk factories just to keep up with the demand. I bet they didn't think this would happen.
Hey, you oat-based monsters, this is a boring story, and there's 3 people that host this show in Los Angeles.
Who is
your
talking?
Dumb oat story.
There's somebody on.
Do you see how this is going off the rails? These guys, they can't do it. They have to make fun of it. They can't take it seriously. They can't bring themselves to actually read the ad and just try and sell the product. They have to sneak in there and all kinds of little nuances that they have to do this, but we're really above it, you see.
On the wire. There's been some wires crossed because I don't see any name here. And I hear somebody else talking.
You need an oat-based editor.
The point is we are taking 100% of the credit for making Oatly famous and their lives miserable.
Infamous.
Of course, there's a slight chance that Oatly tastes so good that people just like to buy a lot of it. People like Tommy. Or that it's sustainable and people like that because they're interested in having a planet to live on in the future.
I think we should just take the credit.
Okay, yeah. It's all us.
All right. What was the name of the product, John?
Oatmeal.
My point exactly. Oatly. That's right. Pod saved the privilege. Hawking nut milk. Good work, boys.
Well, you'd think one of them would have had, maybe if they had it there and they could all drink it and see what they think of it, because they probably wouldn't like it. I'm sorry that you have to do this.
I don't have to, but I kind of feel good about doing it in some odd way. Some odd way. And I like listening to their show. It's like, you just go, wow, all right, these guys definitely think differently than me. Different ideas. It's okay. That's what podcasting is good. Different ideas. It's all good.
Let's slam writers. Oh, that guy can't write. Oh, he can't write.
Maybe we just talk about podcasting for a second before we go into State of the Union.
Podcasting.
Okay. I mean, go podcasting. So confirmed. Spotify acquired Gimlet Media and Anchor. And they now will be folded into the Spotify business.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and reviewed. We actually have 2 proposals that we received, one from Spotify, one from Pandora. And I got to tell you, we can't do this. We can never go to one of these outfits because when I read between the lines, and this is more from my own experience and public knowledge, not necessarily something that they sent me.
You've been taken already.
Is that it's going to be, these podcasts will no longer be playable anywhere but on Spotify, the Spotify app, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But if you don't pay, you will be getting ads, and there's sufficient suspicion that you'll be getting ads even if you are paying, because they really have to recoup this investment. And yeah, you've got people on the service and using it, but I think a lot of people will, continue with the free, which is what the bulk of their listeners are, is free, and that's based on advertising. And you won't be able to skip past the ads, which is another thing that's going to be rather complicated. But just the fact that all of their deals surround some type of advertising makes our show impossible for that. This just can't happen. It wouldn't be a show.
Well, why don't we put together something special for them?
No,
that's not our show. We can still do our show, and then we'll do the Spotify version.
No, I'm not. I can't. I can't bring myself to do it.
Adam, I had some oatmeal milk the other day. It was delicious.
Oh, tell me, man. Wait, is it that cool stuff from Sweden I keep hearing about?
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
As we say in Sweden, nut milk. Älskar. Maybe we could do it. That actually wasn't that bad.
I think we could.
So, can we conclude this executive meeting?
Yeah, that was
it's really a dud. Much of one. It's a dud. It's not for us. But however, I did find a service, which I'll be talking about somewhere down the road, finally did what I've been looking for. They have a blanket license for all music. And yes. And you can, but it's not about streaming because, if I do like the daily source code, if I brought that back, which I would really like to, I'm not so worried about, a couple hundred people listening while I do it live on the stream. But these guys have it so you can download it, put it on your phone, listen to it wherever you are, no ads, and of course you have to pay for it. But it's the pricing I think is what's interesting what they're doing. I think you have to pay like a minimum of $2.99 a month to subscribe to a channel that has whatever music is in it, no matter how many shows are in there. And all the royalties for the artists are paid out of that, and the rest goes to the, as they call, creator. But here's the cool thing. You can put any amount you want, and the creator himself can say, here's the minimum amount. So it's kind of like a monetization platform all in one, where you can actually play music, which is the only thing I've been wanting to do for 10 years. Longer than that, 15 years. So for daily source code, there's some opportunities, also not including advertising. I just can't do it. I listen to these Pod Save the Privilege guys. I can't do it. I can't do it seriously anymore. I used to.
Well, you're condemning them because they can't do it?
I'm condemning them because they're not taking it seriously, and they're just, they're so embarrassed by it.
They're not even trying.
They're not even trying, really. They tried to write a little skit. It's just lame. But that's all because they can't
They're lousy
bring
writers.
They and the segment's closed. Good work. So we'll stay here, but we do need your help. So we can continue to do things like, what were you doing? You were looking at Elizabeth Warren's...
the Elizabeth Warren takedown, yeah.
That's value for value right there. You made my podcasting partner go look at Liz Warren pictures. Danger pay, I say. Danger pay is in order.
Well, we can start off talking about the State of the Union speech with NBC's. In this case, it's a compilation that they did right off. This is MSNBC take on SOTU, blaming Biden. It's kind of an interesting little tidbit. They took the State of the Union speech, and instead of analyzing, no, they're going to take the State of the Union speech and then put some old Trump material in there where he's slamming somebody. A little more State of the Union, slamming somebody, slamming, and then they're going, he's a horrible person.
Whoa, you got butt slam.
And the funny thing is,
sorry, yeah,
I think these guys are so stupid that they have all the Trump slams of Biden, and it's like they're condemning Trump for slamming Biden, but at the same time they're letting all this anti-Biden propaganda go over the air, even though they're supposedly mocking it. I'm wondering whether they hate Biden and they're doing this on purpose and letting Trump take – it's like, well, this guy said this, and you play a clip of him, even though it's what you think.
John, what I think is happening right now is there's so many contenders potentially for the 2020 United States election, which is just ridiculous that we're going to – I refuse to talk about it for the next 2 years, but okay, we'll have to do something. All these different stations are all different fractions. CNN is choosing their people. NBC News is choosing their people. And they're doing it to, well, first of all, they're kind of vetting, who has access to money. So the one who's kind of quiet right now is Beto. But he showed up on Oprah, Oprah's own network. And he said, I'll let something know by the end of the month. So he's doing the rounds. And the media outlets are just seeing, okay, who really has the capability to spend a lot of money advertising with us? And they promote them.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. And they, of course, the big money person who will come in late in the game because she's learned her lesson
is Hillary.
Not to commit too early.
Yeah.
And that is Hillary. But let's just listen to this little bit here. It's pretty funny.
This is the time to rekindle the bonds of love and loyalty and memory that link us together as citizens, as neighbors, as patriots. You are a rude, terrible person. That's okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do. They call her Pocahontas. Very low IQ. Low IQ. This is our future, our fate. and our choice to make. Lowlife. She's a lowlife. We call him 1% Biden. Until Obama took him off the trash heap, he couldn't do anything. Now he's talking about Russia. I think she is very bad for our country. I am asking you to choose greatness. No matter the trials we face, no matter the challenges to come. That hair is getting whiter and whiter, and he's getting crazier and crazier. We must go forward together.
Thank you to the brilliant people on my team who put that together. That says it all. I don't really have anything to add. The person who called for unity said all those things. So it's do as I say, not do as I do. And if that moment during last night's address seems sanctimonious, consider what Trump told a group of TV anchors at a private lunch literally hours before. From Peter Baker in the New York Times, who writes, quote, Mr. Trump dismissed former Vice President Joe Biden as dumb, called Senator Chuck Schumer of New York a nasty son of a bleep, and mocked Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia, who he said choked like a dog. At a news conference where he tried to explain a racist yearbook photo. That's according to multiple people in the room. Joining us is the reporter with that scoop, Peter Baker, New York Times chief White House correspondent. Peter Baker, there are some things that you read about him that are amazing, and it wasn't choke like a dog and son of a bleep that was amazing. What was amazing is that they tried to spin the anchors that there was going to be some grace note in this speech, that he was going to talk about unity. That, to me, was the big whopper lie of the night.
Well, it's one thing to try to turn a corner, to pivot away from some of the division that there has been out there and try to, in effect, set a new tone of bipartisanship or unity. But to have just a few hours earlier a lunch like this where you make clear that that's not really what's in your head and your heart that moment, is pretty striking. I think you're right.
But forget about his head and his heart. Here's what else came out of his mouth. He said he hoped he would get to run against Biden. I hope it's Biden. Biden was never very smart. He was a terrible student. His gaffes are unbelievable. When I say something that you might think is a gaffe, it's on purpose. It's not a gaffe. When Biden says something dumb, it's because he's dumb.
Yeah, they do not want Biden to run. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that
they are not protecting him at all. And this is what's her face, Nicole Wallace, who worked for. She was Republican. She worked for the Republicans. She's really just mean. She's bitter and bitter. And I think Van Jones, he said the same thing that she just did there, except he did it in 7 seconds.
I saw this as a psychotically incoherent speech with cookies and dog poop.
I mean, you nailed it, man. Just say that. Not sure what it means.
It doesn't mean anything.
Cookies and dog poop. Okay.
Yeah, well, it was funny to look at the numbers that seem to have come out of the speech, which is a huge positive response from the Republicans to the tune of 97%.
Well,
and 30% for the Democrats and 82% for the Independents, which is really all that counts.
Right. How much for the Independents?
82.
And whose numbers are these?
These came from the source is a good source, and it was used. I think I first saw it on C-SPAN, but it was a decent source.
Speaking of which, C-SPAN. Speaking of C-SPAN, and they started to do all kinds of. They made all kinds of directorial decisions I had not seen before. They were cutting to people when they had shot cues. They were ready. They were tight zooms. Talk about socialism. Boom. There's Bernie. I mean, they had this down.
You don't know that this wasn't a feed that were taken from NBC, ABC, or CBS?
I don't. It's a pool, so I don't know who was in charge of it, but it was not as neutral as C-SPAN typically is.
I would assume they're taking somebody else's feed.
That's something we need to look at.
They're not going to change their style. Their style is to put the camera up there and leave it there.
Well, it was a departure from previous State of the Unions.
Yeah.
At least what I've seen. And we should probably say the State of the Union, that because I'm sure everyone in the world has heard about it, because all foreign press just gets up in the morning, copy pastes and translates into English whatever the New York Times or the WAPO, whatever they said, USA Today, and then they paste that, file it, have some coffee, good to go. So State of the Union is something in our Constitution where from time to time the president shall update both houses of Congress on the State of the Union. So all of this is just show. It's show. And it's also, he could have, quite honestly, he said the State of the Union is strong. It's like, well, I disagree. I think we got lots of problems. I would have thought it better, although Trump would never do that, if he said, we got our issues, but we're doing okay. Something like that. Would have been a little more fair.
The funny thing is that there was a good rundown. I think it was done by the Times or one of the papers of the length of the speeches. And it's very clear when you look at the shortest speeches and the longest speeches that the shortest speeches are always done by Republicans. And the longest speeches are always done by Democrats, except Trump falls into the Democrat camp, having two of the longest speeches, 82 and 88 minutes. Right under the record breaker, which was Bill Clinton. I think it was 90 minutes.
This thing should have been 45 minutes tops.
It shouldn't have been that. There are some. If you look at there are some shorties, some 30-minute speeches, which would be just fine. We don't need this long speech.
Well, what it is, it was a tone. I liked his tone, by the way. I thought he struck the right tone. I think that does matter. Something about it was just right. He started off with a lot of the heavy breathing and got that under control. It's more like a rally. It's just it didn't have the enthusiasm of a rally, but had all the same topics. And he had moments where, like when he got all of the House chanting USA, USA, I would have been like, all right, let's go. That's what we need, everybody. See ya. He should have walked off right there. It would have been perfect. All right, we have unity. I've done it. We all love USA. Go USA, and I'm out. That would have been fantastic. But no, then he came back with the ripping babies from mothers' wombs. It was a real roller coaster.
Well, then there's the issue of these idiotic white dresses.
Well, that's Nancy's little army. Nancy's army, who she's signaling to, like, shh, be quiet.
Yeah,
just what the hell was Nancy doing with those papers? What was in those papers that she had to shuffle them?
She's like an anchor at the desk, just fumbling with papers.
She's shuffling the papers. She's standing up, looking at the papers.
On the little desk.
It was really, and she's. And I think this is just age. I don't want to be ageist, but you're in your 80s and you don't realize everyone's sitting down and we're moving on. Oh, crap, let me shuffle my papers, sit down now. And then just signaling for people to get up, for people to sit down. It was pathetic. I think it really was a disservice to these women, in my opinion.
Well, and every Republican woman was in the white, and they were doing high fives.
Democrat, not
women.
Republicans.
It looked silly. It looked like a sorority club or something. It was very, I thought it was demeaning, to be honest about it. But C-SPAN did have a little thing at the end where they had the mic out there and they were asking everybody would walk by for some comments. And so they wanted to know what the point of white was. Why wasn't it red? It could have been yellow. How about blue? How about green?
Jaya Paul of Washington, a Democrat. First of all, the Democratic women were all dressed in white for what reason?
Sure, yes, it was very powerful, and you saw that almost all of us were on the Democratic side of the chamber. There were a couple of moments there where President Trump mentioned women and the power of women. I don't think he expected us to take it the way we did, but we all started high-fiving each other, and we were very happy that the power of women was recognized. And I would just point out we were all on the Democratic side of the chamber.
It seemed a little playful, though. He was playing with you a little bit there.
Yeah, I don't think he really had a choice. I mean, I think we sort of took over the floor at that moment, and I think it was really about the contributions of women to this country, and we're very proud that we have the most diverse, the most female Congress that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask the question. You heard what she said.
Mm-hmm.
He asked the question, for what reason did you wear white?
Well, I know what was written about this. It was to celebrate the suffragettes.
That seemed to be written after the fact as an excuse. And if you go back and look at suffragette stuff, why don't they wear a bustle?
A bustle? Do tell, what is a bustle?
It's that thing that makes your hips look like they're, huge and makes the dress flare way out.
Oh, a bustle. You have a corset and then a bustle.
Yeah, a corset, then a bustle.
Well,
now
this is
again. He asked her specifically for what reason. What did she say? Did she answer that question?
No, she did not.
I don't know. I listened to it a couple of times. She couldn't answer it because nobody knows.
It was a thing.
She didn't say suffragettes.
As far as I'm concerned, it was a thing that AOC started when she took her oath when she was sworn in, and she at the time said it was representative of the suffragettes. I think it was an AOC thing that Nancy wanted to keep under control, and she wanted to pull it all towards her. And I think the combo of the white with the pearls they all had on was kind of a fashion no-no.
No, that was a horrible look.
I mean, I've been around fashion. I'm like, no, that's not. Although AOC's white outfit was stunning. What a great outfit. I like that a lot. That was good.
She had a stylish outfit. She's the only one that I saw.
No, that was a great outfit. And I love that you see some woman like with black on. Oh, boy. Or someone with red. Oh, hello, State of the Union 5 years ago. Because it used to be they all came in red, the power women.
It's dumb. This white thing was pretty interesting to see it from the camera angle, but I think it was a flop.
Well, it identified everybody, and it was
not about them.
Well, this is what's interesting is they were all scowling, not all, but most were scowling, were not clapping until it was about them. And then they were all jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, who are you really there for? Yeah, it was to me, it was a fun show to watch. It was way too long. I mean, and I think Trump should have had the showmanship to know when to stop it, or he should have reordered some of these topics and gotten some of the things. The flow was way too roller coaster. There was no build up to the end. In that regard, it was poor, very poor.
Well, I didn't think much of it. But I never liked any of these. Now we did have the guy again, back to the C-SPAN guy. I thought this was funny. This Paul Tonko. He comes in and he condemns the speech for a reason that was kind of unexpected, but I got a kick out of this, of course, because it's thematic for our show.
What committees are you on, and what are your legislative goals for this being in the majority now?
Sure. I serve on Energy and Commerce, and I serve on Science, Space, and Technology. Under Energy and Commerce, I now have the chairmanship responsibility of the subcommittee on Environment and Climate Change. So very distressed that I didn't hear a word about climate change. When the president talks about national security, climate change is an ultimate solution. When he talks about international harmony, climate change is a threat to that harmony. We need to address it.
Wait a minute. I want to go back and listen to that again. That was pretty stellar. Hold on.
Climate change is an ultimate solution.
Sounds very creepy. Let's go back a little more.
About climate change. When the president talks about national security, climate change is an ultimate solution.
So national security, climate change is the ultimate solution?
That's exactly what he said.
What do you think that means?
I wonder myself. Ever since he said that, I've been wondering what it might mean. Climate change is the ultimate solution to national security. How does that work? In what way is it the ultimate solution? And anytime
you say ultimate solution, it sounds Nazis is what it sounds like.
Yeah, Nazis.
They had the ultimate solution. Creepy.
When he talks about international harmony, climate change is a threat to that harmony. We need to address it. I will tell you, we're going to continue forward with our advocacy for climate change to be addressed. We're having our first hearing tomorrow. We will show the American public that we hear the people. We will embrace and respect science. We will let them know we understand the urgency, and we will work very hard to develop solutions based on science and evidence. So we're going to have a very aggressive approach. There's been a dry spell for far too long in the House of Representatives with this issue not being addressed. It impacts greatly on our economy. It impacts on public health, and it's costing us dearly.
Yeah, well, the AOC faction just came out with a new version of the new Green Deal, which I haven't had a chance to review, but I will for Sunday. So it's kind of like the Constitution, it's a living document.
Now, we do have the guy saying that the public is irked by all this, that we haven't been discussing it enough. I don't know anyone who's irked by it personally, but maybe it's just me. He's just making this up as he goes along. But the truth comes out in the second part of his clip where he mentions really what this is always going to be about. It's snuck in there as usual. You'll hear it.
So you bring a spotlight to that issue, but if you want legislation, A, what kind of legislation would you aim for? And B, what are you going to do about the Senate?
Okay, I think we have support in both houses, and I believe there's growing support based on the public's desire to have this issue addressed. So I'm confident we can approach this issue along two tracks simultaneously. One where we harvest the low-hanging fruit, energy efficiency, weatherization, conservation, research, grid modernization, recharging stations that are made more accessible, more readily fueling the cars that we electrify, and then also on a separate track. But
wait, what did he say?
More readily.
Oh, back a little more here.
Grid modernization,
whatever that means.
Recharging stations that are made more accessible, more readily fueling the cars that.
This is an odd statement to say. Recharge stations more readily available to fuel the cars.
We electrify, and then also on a separate track, but simultaneously address a price on carbon, so that we can have an absolute measurement of reduction of carbon pollution. We need to be much more soundly the stewards of our environment, and we need to respect the generations that will follow us.
Your district has been affected by industrial job loss. The president seems to have an industrial policy. Do you agree with it?
Not always. I think his rhetoric doesn't match his actions.
So the guy's in a Rust Belt area, and I guess nobody can get work because of him and his stupid ideas. But they keep voting him in, so what are you going to do? It's a bunch of Democrat union guys is my guess.
All right.
Anyway, that's one of the things that I noticed. I call him the climate change jerk.
You want to transition to climate change for a minute, or do you want to stick with the State of the Union?
I got a couple more other things. I do have a switchback example that was on the State of the Union speech done by NBC.
Well, we can't do anything until you call it a whipsaw.
I can't remember what they call it.
Whipsaw! Tomorrow night, the State of the Union divided, with President Trump fighting on multiple fronts, like immigration, the very topic that prompted the first 35-day government shutdown. Now, Mr. Trump is refusing to rule out a second shutdown unless Democrats fund his border wall.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens.
Hold on a second. So let's go over this one. He refuses to rule out a second shutdown.
We'll see what happens.
And he says, we'll see what happens. How is that
ruling it out? Not at all. It's not ruling it out at all.
She just said that. And I've never heard him, make an assertion. I refuse to rule out a second. No, he never did that. And then they have this lame clip of him saying,
let me listen to it again.
Tomorrow night, the State of the Union divided, with President Trump fighting on multiple fronts, like immigration, the very topic that prompted the first 35-day government shutdown. Now, Mr. Trump is refusing to rule out a second shutdown unless Democrats fund his border wall.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's even more interesting that, this is threatening with a national emergency. That was a question that was initially asked by a member of the press, and he said, oh, yeah, I could do that. That's a possibility. He never came out and stated it. The press, hounded him for it.
Yeah.
At least that's the only instance I can recall.
Well, I think we've already isolated what's really going to happen, which is not a national emergency.
No, it's 10 U.S.C. 284, which gives the president this absolute authority to implement all the things he's been talking about under the auspices of stopping drugs and transnational crime. And that's already law, and he doesn't have to get any appropriation for it. He can just go do it.
Yeah. I think that was one of the if anyone listens to this show regularly, they'll note that this is one of the greatest observations that I think we've ever put out there.
Well, let's see if he uses
the one that came up with it.
Let's see if he uses it. Let's see if he
will.
uses it.
It's obvious with that guy when he's questioning. We could go back and do that segment again. But let's go to the second. By the way, this was a series of about 4 switchback or whipsaws. These are the 2 that were the best, and so I just took these 2. This is number 2.
And the president is ramping up his threats to declare a national emergency, even as some allies urge him not to. How can President Trump strike a unifying note at his State of the Union address with the threat of a national emergency on the table?
Well, the 2 are not the same. The national emergency, if he were in fact to execute on that, Kristen, which he has not so far, is because he believes that we have a crisis on the southern border.
Wait a minute. I missed this one.
Okay, let's start. Let me give it another run. Welker says he's ramping up his threats to declare a national emergency. They can't even find any sort of a clip that would have anything to do with this.
Right, so they bring in Kellyanne Conway.
So they bring in Kelly and ask her an obscure question that's got nothing to do with anything. It's what she says. I don't know what you're talking about. So the point is that this is a little more advanced. Instead of you exemplifying the idiotic with a comment that's got nothing to do with it by the person that they're accusing of having something to do with it, they bring in a third party that can't even get that close.
I'm going to play it again.
And the president is ramping up his threats to declare a national emergency, even as some allies urge him not to. How can President Trump strike a unifying note at his State of the Union address with the threat of a national emergency on the table?
Well, the 2 are not the same. The national emergency, if he were in fact to execute on that, Kristen, which he has not so far, is because he believes that we have a crisis on the southern border.
Well, also, she put in there that allies are urging him not to do this. What? I didn't even know the allies were urging this.
Well, we didn't have an example of that either. And they go to Kellyanne Conway, who's an obvious ally, and she's like befuddled by the question. So he's not ramping up his threats. This is NBC, and it's shameful, really misleading reporting that just never ends, which is exactly what Glenn Greenwald said at the beginning of the show. That from that clip of his, he says that these guys are just hopeless.
And the Republican, Fox News, I should just say, Fox News. Well, here's an example of Fox News: home run, knocked it out of the park, great speech. That's pretty much what everyone says. That was it. That was all. Home run, knocked it out of the park, coach. Rocking and rolling, great job. And then they all go off and yell about the women in white and everything. It is so harmful to your health. And I hope that a lot of No Agenda producers tried to save some of their family members and not even let them watch it. Just in these cases, it's much healthier to let us do that. We've built up some resistance over the years.
Yeah.
And our families.
We have a sense of humor about it all.
Yeah, and our families understand us. Like, oh, well, okay.
Those poor bastards.
But thanks to you, and I don't mean you, John, thanks to the producers of this program, which is everyone within the sound of our voices, this is possible. You make it possible for us to do this, to sit around and do this type of deep dive, look for stuff, try and scan it all, to keep your amygdala at a small level, a small size, and to keep your family and professional life calm. And we have many ways that people support the show. A lot of it is through donations, yes, sure. But there's clips, there's knowledge people send us, there's artwork. But for now, as he's got his drum out, it's time to say thank you for your courage in the morning to you, the man who put the C in Kremlin Crush, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. In the morning, all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
In the morning to the trolls in the troll room. NoAgendaStream.com is where you get a nice little pre-stream from Void Zero, gets everybody in the mood. It's a 24/7 operation, so tons of podcasts that you can listen to and troll them. Troll people while you're in there. And sometimes they actually help quite well with this show, correcting us in real time. NoAgendaStream.com. And in the morning to Mark G. He brought us the artwork for episode 1109. Big senior moment, Mr. Dvorak. You and I, big senior moment on this one.
What?
We named the episode Pentacon.
Oh, we named it episode Pentacon before?
Yes. Not
the week before?
Not quite that bad. I think it was. And, and there was a moment where I thought to myself, that sounds, because I'm usually the one that goes, let's just look this up just to make sure we haven't already used this. And now I'm looking for it. When did we use that? But we did, and people called us on it, and I felt pretty stupid. It felt like
we should have called it Pentacon 2. We should have just renamed it.
Well, once the feed is published, going back and changing stuff results in tears. It's really not a good thing to do.
I'm not sure it does.
Very, very sad. But we do want to thank Mark G. profusely for bringing us this artwork. This was a Super Bowl-related artwork. It had our episode number on it, MCIX. 1X, MC1X. And it was nice. You
didn't like it.
No, it's not that I didn't like it. There are other things, but it's a tough call because we know people will listen to the show a day after the Super Bowl. How many people really give a rat's ass about the Super Bowl? But then you look at the quality of the art, and so
the quality of the art's Mark G.
Mark G is pro stuff. And please take a look at all the submissions, all the artwork. It's just beautiful to see. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. And we thank not only Mark G, but everybody who is always trying to make our program better for our album art. And it makes a difference because it does show up in directories and in hot lists. And it's exciting. It's like, there's something new. Because it's just different artwork. It's not, your vision doesn't get used to just seeing it. Whatever, like we're often next to Rachel Maddow. It's just Rachel, the same picture of Rachel. We got all kinds. We got goats. We got Super Bowl things. We got fantastic pieces of artwork. It's exciting and people click, and we appreciate it.
It always looks like something new, which it is.
It is.
So we have a few people to thank for show 1110. Next show, by the way, is 1111, which is a double lucky number.
Yes, 1111.
I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can go. I'm trying to push people to $11.11 subscriptions.
Subscription, yeah, that'd be a great way to celebrate this.
The really great way would be the 1111 weekly subscription.
And also 1111 is what a lot of people seem to see when they look at digital clocks. Oh, it's 1111. A lot of people have this.
Oh, and I see 1111 all the time.
Yeah, you're supposed to make a wish.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It comes true. It works.
Does?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Sir Pafunk, $333, who I got into an email back and forth with and ended up blocking him.
Why? He's a nice, okay. You blocked a knight? What?
Well, he sends me this, I think it was a Reddit exchange where somebody, of course, we don't look at these pages, and I don't like seeing them. I don't go to those pages because I find them to be just a bunch of dirtbags that are making comments where they don't know what they're talking about. And so he sent a screen capture of somebody condemning me for being an old fart.
From the Reddit?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was like it was back and forth where I said that I listened to Michael Savage and switched to Hannity and found that Hannity was executing something Savage was bitching about executing advertising wise.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you would listen to these guys? And the guy says, it's old age. Only old folks listen to the guys. Say, well, I also listen to Jim Rome. I listen to everything that's talk radio related. It just so happens I like Michael Savage because he's funny. And so I send him that note. So he sends me a thing back, a second email I don't need, saying, hey, do you have a thing for Amy Goodman of Democracy Now? You keep using her clips. And I said, bye, and blocked him. I'm not going to put up with this.
Yeah, that's odd. Because I think he's the guy from Indiana who I met. Yeah,
well, it's beside the point. I'm just saying what it was.
No, but, that is you just pretty much described the one guy on Reddit who has 8 accounts, and that's all he does all day is bitch about stuff like
himself.
that. Yes.
So anyway, Pafunk says, donate $3.33, which I'm not going to bitch about. I'm sorry about upsetting you yesterday via email. Please forgive me. Hey, Curry, what's up?
Hey, what's up? What's up, bro?
Shameless plug.
Who
this? 19. He's got. They have an operation out there in the middle of nowhere. 1890studios.com, which has to do with they review Netflix or explore Netflix is one of them.
Okay. Well,
1890studios.com written numbers.
Okay.
NJNK. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Super Funk, and I'm sure he's really sorry, John, and he's learned now.
The problem is when they put with the new guy administering the squirrel mail.
Here it comes.
When I put up a bounce notice, I'm not quite sure how to retrieve it, so I'll look at it maybe.
Oh, well, I think probably what he was doing was just trying to show you the moronics that go on. I mean, I don't know.
No, it wasn't done in a very playful way.
Okay. Well, people
anyway,
send me this stuff all the time.
Comes in as the first, so we only have this. All we got.
Wait! This is Dexter.
Yeah,
this is
Dexter,
the Dex.
Your buddy.
Oh, can I read this?
Did he move to Great Britain?
He's been in Great Britain. This is forever. He's been in Great Britain.
I thought he was in Texas.
No.
24119. Okay, Dexter the molester.
He's not a molester. What do you stop? This is my protege. This is the son I never had.
Your exit strategy.
This is the son I never had.
Yeah, your exit strategy.
Yeah, he's
Dexter, the only entrepreneur in the group.
the only millennial entrepreneur I've ever met.
Yeah, well, the guy's going to be a billionaire. So,
dear Podfather and John, please give me a de-douching. Oh, hold on, I should do that here, de-douching, for sponging off the No Agenda show for a century under the false pretense that I was somehow not required to donate.
You've been de-douched.
It recently occurred to me that my relationship with Christina, that's my daughter, 10 years ago, Dexter was Christina's boyfriend, no longer warranted the free ride I'd felt entitled to. I did teach this. I taught this boy well. I've been feeling guilt ever since. However, I've not felt I've been in a position to pay my dues until now. Please take my donation as a down payment for the quest of knighthood. The amount, $241.19, relates to the 24th of the 1st, 2019, the day I sold both my vape companies. As I am tied into working for the man for the next 6 months, I would like to ask for new job karma as I plan to contribute a small portion of all significant financial successes I achieve moving forward as a way of repaying you both for the sanity No Agenda provides me. Hopefully upon hearing you read this message out of some of the guilt I've been feeling will subside. Despite this averaging at only 26 cents per show I've listened to since being hit in the mouth by Adam himself. To those of you listening that have also been sponging off NA like I have, good luck. I felt like the son Adam never had. Aww. That's what I feel. No, come on. That's real. Yet I've only managed 10 years. So unless you're the keeper, do yourself a big favor, as you also deserve to free yourself from the self-entitled shackles that hold you back from guilt-free, informational, no-agenda listening pleasure. For those that really can't afford to donate, you better be punching mouths harder than Tyson. Keep up the great work, Adam and John. I look forward to seeing you get your swords out for me in the near future. # no homo. # or maybe a little bit. From Dex. Aw, that's so sweet. Yes, he needs a jobs karma. We're going to lay that on him right now. The son I never had.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
You know, I told him, I said, I'm glad he listened to me. I said, Dex, Big Nick is coming in. They're going to take away all of your business. This vape juice, it's limited, man. They're going to start charging you millions of dollars to get it approved. So he sold the whole place, made his money. I guess he has a 6-month earn out or something. Congratulations. Podcasting's next for you, my friend. Thank you, Dexter. That's yeah. Wait, I'll do it for you.
On to Stefan Ehret, Ehret. in Fellbach, Deutschland, 222. This donation of 222 is in memory of my beloved wife, Ushi, Ushi, I hope I pronounced it correctly, who passed away 3 years ago from cancer at the age of 39. Her death day is 2/9/2016. Her birthday was 11/10, so the donation is a fitting one, 11/10. Show 1110, a fitting one to help everyone still rocking a call out to F Cancer. I've reached the level of knight with this donation. I'd like to be knighted as Sir Stefan of Swabia.
Okay.
Please keep the show rolling with all the truth out there.
Yes, he's from Fellbach. Hallo Deutschland, Stefan. Of course we'll do that. Here it is, man.
You've got karma.
And I'll see you at the table, Stefan. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Aaron Heath in St. Agnes, Australia, South Australia, $201. No blankets, no water, just some cash for you hardworking fellas. Please, can I have some house selling karma?
Yes, you betcha. And thank you very much for your courage.
You've got karma.
And last on the list of associate executive producers is Eric Henry in Oviedo, Florida, $200.33. Please accept this donation for the Value for Value show, so the Value for Value show continues to provide, or for the value it continues. I'll get it. It's kind of what he wanted. This donation brings me to knighthood. That's the important part. I would like to be knighted as Sir Zombie Slave.
Okay.
Karma to Sir Tarheel. Huntsman, Sir Tarheel, Huntsman jobs karma with hookers and blow at the round table.
I think what he's saying is karma to Sir Huntsman, Sir Tarheel, and he wants Huntsman jobs karma. You remember Huntsman? You will when I play it.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
I forgot all.
Oh yeah,
I forgot all about Huntsman.
Yeah, that's is it John Huntsman? He was ambassador to China at the time.
Yeah, he was running for president, in fact.
Yeah, and that's when we first heard this clip. The Tapua Chata Pachapata Ching Ching.
Yeah, he speaks fluent Chinese.
Yeah, isn't he back over? Isn't he? I know he's doing something for us. He was. I think he may be back ambassador to China, isn't he?
I have no idea. It is John Huntsman. I'll look him up. Anyway, I want to thank all these folks for producing show 1110. And hopefully we'll have a massive list of producers for 1111 coming up next week. If you have any ideas, just donate the idea in terms of like a number that there's a good number we can use.
Yeah.
Something like 11 times cubed. I don't know.
We're looking for ideas. They usually come from you guys anyway, so please.
Yeah, we don't do that much except deconstruct news stories.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to our executive producer and associate. We have one exec or two? We have two execs. One executive producer and our associate executive producers. Very much appreciated. We have more people to thank. $50 above in our second segment. And remember that these credits are official credits. They are good and valued wherever credits are accepted. So portray them loudly and proudly. And remember, our next show will be on Sunday. Please support the work at Dvorak.org/NA. We've broken it all down for you. You can sound super smart now, I think.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
You know, 11 squared, which would be a good number, is 121, which I think is a reasonable donation. 121, and then 11 cubed though is 1331, which is cool but a little high. I do have a note from producer Catherine. New donation amount suggestion. With the show's titty trend in donations, I'm suggesting a new donation of 30.08 or MOB in calculator speak. This donation amount is suggested for those hoping to recognize the gender inequalities faced daily by men, so clearly evident after years of SJW influence and hypocrisy. At the same time, however, the relatively small donation amount under 50 allows producers to maintain anonymity in their silent support. I'm specifically donating today in honor of two important XYs in my life. My would-be common-law spouse, Bill Walsh, a.k.a. Sir Saturday Night, and submitter of John's Got Ants. His birthday falls on show day, Thursday, February 8th. 6th, 8th. Today's the 8th. You want to put him on the birthday list? Because I didn't do that.
Oh, hold on a second. Now you tell me. All right.
And number two.
So who to who?
Bill Walsh, Sir Saturday Night, from Catherine.
And his birthday?
Today.
From Catherine. Okay. By the way, it's pronounced moobs. Not mobs. You said mobs or something. I don't know what you said.
I thought I said moobs.
No.
I see. It's written moobs. I don't know what I said.
No,
a new human resource, Edwin, who started us with the nephew department on January 17th, here's hoping that he does not suffer from the enlarged amygdala of those in the generation before him. And finally, now men can finally say, look at mine too. For housekeeping, I sent this donation in Canadian. Okay, well, anyway.
Just to confuse things even more.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Your moves are light. All right.
Oops.
Joe Rogan had a Jack Dorsey on his show.
The Taliban beard.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you can say about him. But it was quite interesting. I thought it was a good interview. No, it was not really a great interview, but I heard the things that Dorsey was saying, and I did bring a couple of clips to share. What was kind of interesting is that Rogan put out on Instagram, Jack's going to come back because a lot of people are really unhappy that we didn't address deplatforming deeply enough, which is like, wow, okay. I mean, it certainly was addressed, and he gave the answers. I just, maybe people don't hear it. And there were some other issues with this. I mean, I think that if you're going to have a main advertiser on your show, you're going to interview him, that you kind of should mention that up front, not until almost at the end of the interview as Rogan gets ready to promote the Square Cash App. Does it kind of come up like, yeah, we really love your Cash App. So he's getting paid. So that, it's, what do we call that? It's just not clean.
Oh, okay. There's a native ad.
Well, it wasn't, but it's just like
a plugola.
It's like, this whole. I mean, that's when you get is then when people feel that you didn't dive into a topic deep enough, they're going to get accused. Well, it's your advertiser, which of course is true, and I'm sure that Rogan, you always think about these things. I'm not going to piss this guy off. And by the way, why would you? He has some interesting thoughts. So I'd like to play a few clips that I selected from this interview that answers a lot of questions. At least it did for me. I'm not quite sure why people didn't feel they got enough out of it. The first thing is how Twitter, and when you're listening to these guys talk, when you listen to Dorsey talk, and I had to cut out a lot of pauses, so that disclaimer up front, you realize that Twitter. The thing about Twitter that to me is the most interesting is its use by politicians. And of course, Trump started the big use of it. But it's as you realize that all over the world, leaders and politicians are using Twitter now in a similar fashion to Trump. Maybe not with the same fabulous humor, but they are using it to set policy and communicate directly with their constituents. It's kind of a big deal. It's plumbing, and it's much bigger than Instagram or Facebook in that regard because it's so instantaneous. And, well, a lot of it has to do also with the way it functions. And as we've discussed in a lot of our different segments about this, its user interface is really what makes Twitter unique. And it's not not the colors or anything, but it's giving weight to an original post, giving the same weight to the comments. And this is the reason, although not implied in this clip, the reason why Twitter blocks you can't basically create a different Twitter client. You have to use theirs because they know the minute someone changes the visual context of Twitter, their game ends.
The thing is, on Instagram or any blog, you have this post, this statement, and you have comments underneath. Whereas with Twitter, everything is on the same surface.
Right.
It's all one surface. There's room for both models, but this conversation, most conversations, it's not you making a statement and me just reacting to that.
Right.
Like our conversation evolves based on what we say. We can interrupt one another. We can, we can completely change the subject. I can take control of the conversation, and the people who might find that interesting follow it, and the folks that don't just stop listening. Whereas you can't do that in a post-comment model. But it's also thinking. It's just so close to thinking. Like there's no composition. And I think that deeper...
Well, how so? How is it different than a post on Instagram or a post on Facebook?
The speed demands, the character constraint, the speed kind of just demands a more conscious, present, focused thinking versus like stepping back and
composing a letter.
Yeah, and composing a letter and thinking about all the outcomes.
Well, that makes sense. Now, because of this, and because they maniacally control the way it's presented, the way the information is presented, this is where they get to do a lot of things like shadow banning. Only they don't call it shadow banning. They just call it like moving you down and kind of, moving you away so people don't see you right away. And so this is the main... I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
No.
I thought you
were going.
This is kind of the main clip about the deplatforming. And it was always a riddle to me and to Tina as well. It'd be like, well, how can this person say this and they don't get in trouble, yet this person says it and they get warned or kicked off? And what the conversation always goes down to is, well, that person's right wing, that person's liberal, that person's Democrat, that person's Republican. They're suppressing Republicans, they're not suppressing liberals. Dorsey's answer to this was very surprising. They don't look at the actual content at all. It's about conduct.
So the simple answer is we look at conduct. We don't look at the speech itself. We look at conduct. We look at how the tool is being used. And you're right in that. Like I think when people see Twitter, they see and they expect it to be a public square. They can go into that public square. They can say whatever they want. They can get on a pedestal, and people might gather around them and listen to what they have to say. Some of them might find it offensive and they leave. The difference is there's also this concept of this megaphone, and the megaphone can be highly targeted now with Twitter as well.
Right.
So it's not the speech, it's how it's amplified.
When do you decide this is harassment? When do you decide this is hate speech? How do you this is
look at the conduct.
This is a fictional account, right?
Yeah,
fictional person we're talking about. But what would dictate something that was egregious enough for you to eliminate them from your platform?
Well, that's a heavy action, so that's the last resort. But we look at the conduct. The probability of someone who is harassing one person, it's highly probable that they're also harassing 10 more people.
Right.
So we can look at that behavior. We can look at how many times this person is being blocked or muted or reported. And based on all those all that data, we can actually take some action. But we also have to correlate it with the other side of that, because people go on and they coordinate blocks as well, and they coordinate harassment, and they coordinate, I'm sorry, not harassment, but reporting, reporting a particular account to get it shut down and to take the voice off the service. So these are the considerations we have to make, but it all starts with conduct, and oftentimes we'll see coordinated conduct, whether it be that one person opening multiple accounts or coordinating with multiple accounts that they don't own to, go after someone. And there's a bunch of vectors. People use retweet for that, the quote tweet for that a lot as well. Like, they'll quote tweet a tweet that someone finds, and they'll say, look at this idiot, Twitter, do your thing. And then just this mob starts and goes and tries to effectively shut that person down. So there's a bunch of tools we can use. The permanent suspension is the last resort. One of the things that we can do is we can downrank the replies. So any of these behaviors and conduct that looks linked, we can actually push farther down in the reply chain. So it's all still there, but you might have to push a button to actually see it. You might have to show more replies to actually see this harassing account or what might look like harassing language.
So I buy this. I think, of course, there's always exceptions to it, but I do think that's kind of how it happens, because it makes sense that it's not so much about what someone is saying, but there's so many of these, and we see it ourselves. You get someone who's tweeting out shit to you, shit to me. There's a conversation, someone just goes racist, rah, 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 just starts yelling. In that regard,
time code, please. Time code.
Yes, of course. In that regard, it makes sense because it is a public square the way he views it, and people yelling and not being constructive. There's a lot of this conversation talk that he does, and he backs it up by explaining how the initial work, not the platforming, not kicking off, but definitely identification of abusive conduct and subsequent shadow banning is what we'll call it. That is really done by, as he calls it, artificial intelligence.
And is this manually done? Or
No. This is all automated.
It's automated.
Yeah.
But how would you know?
A lot of the ranking and looking at amplification and looking at the network is.
I love how Dorsey just says automated. And then Rogan, of course,
is automated.
Right, like in terms of downranking, is there a discussion as to whether or not this person's reply should be downranked? Like, how do you figure that out?
It's a machine learning and deep learning model. And they just
it's AI.
Whoa, so it's AI. I'm really blown away. Yeah, it's skip logic is what it is. If this person has 5 mutes, then consider him to be downranked. It's just skip logic. It's not I love doors. It's machine learning. It's not AI. Whoa.
That out.
It's a machine learning and deep learning model, and they just
AI.
It's AI, and they learn. And we look at how these things are doing and where they make mistakes, and then we improve it. It's just constantly improving and constantly learning, and those are the things that our technology allows. It changes the velocity. It changes how to broadcast a message that someone didn't really ask for and didn't want to hear. We don't touch. If I follow Joe Rogan, you'll see every single tweet. We don't touch it, right?
Right.
But that's an audience that you earn. But in your replies page, we have a little bit more room because this is a conversation that starts up, and some people just want to disrupt it. And all we're saying is we're going to look at moving the disruption down. Not that it's hidden, but it's still there. But you just see it a little bit farther down. The algorithms rank and order the conversation, but they don't take suspension actions. They don't remove content. They might suggest to a human to look at this, who might look at our rules and look at the content and try to look at the context of the conversation and then take action. But we would like to move towards a lot more automated enforcement. But more importantly, how do we highlight? How do we amplify more of the healthier discussion conversation?
It's already apparent, when I look at the troll room as this is playing, that people are like, this bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. I believe him. I really do. It's another time code? No, I can't keep doing time codes. I believe him. I think he's telling a version of the truth that he wants to believe. I'm sure there's all kinds of funny business going on, but in general, that's the way it's being run. And he's smart, because he realizes that Twitter has no real future as a centralized service when you look at Mastodon and basically the federated universe, the Fediverse as we call it, of social media, which is growing quickly. And he wants to be a part of it. And in this clip, we're almost done here, he sees Twitter's role in the Fediverse, which I thought was eye-opening.
We're going to a world, especially with technology like blockchain, that all content that exists, that is ever created, will exist forever. You won't be able to take it down. You won't be able to censor it. It won't be centralized at all. Our role is around what we recommend based on your interest and based on who you follow and helping you to get into that on-ramp. But if you look at the arc of technology, it's a given that anytime something is created, it's going to exist forever. This is what blockchain helps enable down the line. And we need to make sure that we're paying attention to that and also realizing that, you know, our role is like, how do we get people the stuff that they really want to see and that find valuable, that they'll learn from, that they'll make them think, that will help them evolve the conversation as well.
Now, I don't know how commercially viable that's going to be, but to say, you know, our job is to get you what you want is, I think it's a pretty big statement versus everything happens on our platform. He realizes that's not going to be possible. And also that negates the whole idea of having to deplatform someone if the tweets and the information is out, because he's talking about DHT, you know, distributed hash space, which is just totally where this is going. And then the final one is his belief in cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin.
So back to the internet, I believe the internet will have a native currency.
Really?
It'll have a native currency. And I don't know if it's Bitcoin. I think it will, because just given all the tests it's been through and the principles behind it, how it was created, and, you know, it was something that was born on the internet, that was developed on the internet, that it was tested on the internet. It is of the internet. I just look at this and like, how do we embrace this technology, not react to it in you know, more from a threat standpoint, but like, what does it enable us to do, and where does our value shift? It's a fascinating time in technology, because like that to me was one of the last big centralized nationalized instruments is currency, is money. And when you think about the internet as a country, as a market, as a nation, it's going to have its own currency.
And he puts his money where his mouth is. They did the Lightning Network Bitcoin transfer thing yesterday. He participated in that. So that seems to give some credence to Bitcoin as the future. And I would have had got a little mini man crush on Dorsey if he hadn't messed it up. With just 12 seconds of answer, messed it up. I can no longer like him.
One of my favorite things is when someone posts something stupid and then underneath it is a bunch of GIFs. Do you say GIFs or GIFs? How do you say GIF? Does anybody know?
Ask him.
GIFs.
How do you say it?
GIFs. I say GIFs.
A bunch of GIFs.
No, I'm sorry. That's just wrong.
Wow. I'm stunned.
That he says GIFs?
He knows better.
He should know better.
The guy who invented it
calls it GIFs.
Calls it GIF. Well, what does he know?
So that kind of ruined the whole thing for me. That coupled with the lack of the question of how do you make money would have been interesting to know. Where does that $1 billion a quarter come from?
Yeah, I would like to know that.
I'd like to know how much of it is ads. Are you selling to data brokers?
That would have been a good question.
That would have been a good question.
Well, that's probably what is going to bring him back.
No, he's bringing him back to talk more about deplatforming.
Oh, that's a lie. He just said that just as he needed some reason. He's already probably booked them to get him back because he likes him or wants to talk to him. I think it's cool to hang out with a rich guy.
No, Dorsey's coming back to rescind and call it GIFs. That's the only reason to come back. Are you kidding me, man?
That's what he should go back for.
Yeah. No. I don't know if he's really running his company with this insight and this deep learning, but I think he's saying some interesting things here. I think
it was interesting.
He does have a handle on what's happening, and of course, the shallow are only interested in why did Alex Jones get kicked off, man?
Was the Alex Jones question even asked?
Yeah, but the answer was so long, and it was a repeat because he said. The same thing. He said when he was deplatformed by Apple and everyone else, they kept him on because they just didn't see any abusive conduct. And to wit, there was also very low reporting of his account. He says that was the odd thing, is that people were not reporting. And I think a lot of people forget to do that. because it takes 4 clicks. You got to answer a survey. You got to do prove you're not a bot, and then you can say and then
if nobody's then why did they get deplatformed?
Because apparently there was some conduct that he used that
somebody at the company. They got social justice warriors working there behind the scenes. They won't talk about this.
Of course. I mean, that's another question.
Like this guy, I'm going to just drop him.
That's another thing. Yeah, that's a good question.
The computer told us to do it.
Right.
It's always great to have the computer as a backup excuse.
I just thought it was. I thought it was enlightening. I learned something. I did learn something.
Great. Yeah. Let's at least catch up with some current events.
Yeah, like how wrong we were about the Super Bowl.
About the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I mentioned in the newsletter what was the social political reasons for Boston to win or New England?
Because Elizabeth Warren can't be president?
We have no reason, that's what. Maybe the game was rigged. It's possible that the game was rigged for the Rams to win, but they sucked so bad that no matter what you did, if they could only score 3 points the whole game, because they shut down the New England team and only scored 13 points. I mean, that's nothing for them. I guess maybe 16 at the end. No, I don't know.
But let's talk about something interesting.
I'm just saying. We said we'd talk about. I promised we'd talk about. We talked about.
Yeah, we were. I thought the Rams. I kind of confused them with goats for goat power, but of course the only goat was the
team.
Yes. Now, the Rams. These guys, they need a brand refresh. They need new uniforms, new helmets. I'm looking at these outfits. And the Patriots, they got cool warrior helmets with all they got little sides to it and little flat bits and a thing that looks like it'll pop up and shoot a laser gun from the top. And the Rams, hello 1970s uniform. That was just bad television.
Oh God! All right, that's enough, I guess.
No. I noticed some other. I have no clips or anything, but I noticed the commercials.
Oh yes, let's talk about that.
Too many commercials with robots and or talking tubes, and all of them not at all anywhere near reality. They've got these Alexa Google devices that they just interrupt the conversation. You have a real conversational flow with them, and the 4 of them. And then every ad had a robot this, a robot that. It was not good. I don't think any of those ads were funny, really, or entertaining, and it kind of showed this dystopian future that we're not even really living in because these talking tubes are still pretty lame. I just didn't see. I like the T-Mobile ads, actually. I thought those were the funniest.
I thought the Bud Light commercials with the King, because I've been following these commercials since the beginning, and they did a really good job. I thought Bud Light did a great job of pointing out the fact that the other light beers use corn syrup. I thought that was a very
that was good.
ad.
Yeah, of course they didn't point out that they use rice, but all right.
No, they pointed out they have their ingredients label and it says rice on there. And they point that out, but they don't use corn syrup. And they I thought that was a good ad with the corn syrup barrel being moved from place to place.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, you're right. That was funny.
And then they had there was a lot of ads that were co-sponsored by more than one advertiser. And I think the Bud Light commercial that was also co-sponsored by that show that whatever that crazy shows with the dragon that breathes fire.
Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones.
I never get those commercials. You and I, it's not for me. I've tried. I couldn't get through it. And so that whenever these references, it takes me until the very end. Oh, I see. It was Game of Thrones. It's just lost on me.
Well, when it says Game of Thrones.
Well, at the very end, it was it's lost on me.
I like the Bud Light commercials just to say that they do a good job. And I really find it very funny that this king, the Bud Light king, who's something of a prick, is just, I just find him very funny. All right, but Boston also had did you see this Antifa clip? I'm not sure it's real.
No. What is this? I don't know about
there's some kid. This is a meme floating around about some. I'm an Antifa kid, and he has this little phrase he likes to use, and it became a meme on the I think Twitter or one of these systems. But this is the Antifa. Play this. Just play it. Boston Antifa MPC meme chant.
Okay, Dustin 29 here, Boston Antifa. I'd like everyone to repeat after me. NPC mean go away. We are human here to stay. NPC mean go away. We are human here to stay. NPC mean go away. We are human here to stay. Shame, 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 shame.
I think we played this months ago.
Yeah, it's possible. But whatever the case is, I didn't ISO it, but I have it now for as a candidate for end of show, which is the shame ISO, which I think would be nice.
Let's check it out.
Shame, 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 shame.
I do have a competing one as an option. Let me see. I have this. This is I thought this might be good.
God told me, destroy Joe Rogan.
I thought that was... I kind of like Alex Jones.
You play it again?
God told me, destroy Joe Rogan.
God told me, destroy Joe Rogan. I don't know. Pretty close to your shame clip.
Well, they're pretty competitive.
I think I even had an extra one. Yeah, then I have... this is... one of our producers put this together. They got the Google Home to say this.
There was a glitch. Try again in a few seconds.
I don't think it's good enough.
No.
I think shame will end it. Shame will end it nicely because we got some great end of show mixes today. So we'll do that.
So back to international news. I do have a Brexit clip.
Good. I've been wondering what's going on.
What's going on? Nothing. Farage on his show, on his LBC, on his radio talk show, LBC, I think. He dug up an old Corbyn clip and made a big
Corbyn
fuss
is the socialist labor leader who hates
Corbyn is the labor.
Jews.
He's the labor leader. He would be the prime minister if Labor ever took over, and he found an old clip of Corbyn going on and on about how bad the whole idea of of being in the EU is, which is contradictory to his whole. And by the way, to me, I'd like to maybe you can explain because you lived there quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Labor, the Labor Party, was supposed to represent labor.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that? Am I wrong about that? It's called Labor Party because it represents labor.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Technical. I mean, they're more.
It's like 1 hour laundry. If you want to be,
that's just the name of it.
Yeah, if you want to be specific, it could be that they're about labor. Yeah,
because it seems to me that being in the EU is not really supporting British labor.
No, it's not. It's supporting British freedom of movement, is what they always say.
Which is not the same as British labor. But so I've always wondered why the Labour Party was always so pro-EU and pro-Remainers, when it's really the bankers that are the super Remainers. They're the ones who want to stay around forever.
Yes, of course.
Because they see themselves as a different class of people, and they're in their own city in the middle of London. And so I was always baffled by this. But it doesn't surprise me that somebody from Labour would be against the EU. But let's just play this Farage clip when he's writing him about this.
Remind ourselves of what he said in that speech.
We are creating for ourselves here one massive great Frankenstein, which will damage all of us in the long run.
Well, I mean, I agree with that, but gosh, he's more Brexit than I am. I mean, Corbyn's a hardliner. I only called it the new Soviet. He calls it a Frankenstein. And yet, how does that work? How does that fit with the shadow Brexit Secretary, Keir Starmer, speaking on this very issue of second referendums?
If we cannot get a general election, Labour must support all options remaining on the table, including campaigning for a public vote. That was our commitment.
Wow. I mean, I think there's going to be trouble ahead at some point. And, and remember, folks, Corbyn is in a very powerful position, and he turned a blind eye to 8 of his shadow ministers last week going against the party line on the Cooper Amendment. Goodness knows. Could it be that it's Jeremy Corbyn that saves Brexit. Wow. What a thought.
Farage, it kind of lost a little credibility with me. It's just yelling on the sidelines.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, okay. Where are they at, though?
I don't know that he's even... I mean, he's not the best radio guy.
His voice is so recognizable, though. That makes it great. You're just like, you know it immediately. That's him. Right off the bat. Oh, yeah. You're kind of I just call you an expert on collectibles. I don't want to say hoarder, but you're an expert on collectibles, aren't you?
I know how the market works. Yes,
I saw a commercial. I don't know if it was local or if it was a national spot for the Trumpy Bear. Have you seen this thing?
About the Trumpy Bear?
I don't have a clip. I thought you would have seen it. TrumpyBear.com.
I'll look at it.
And it's this bear that has a red tie, blue suit, like a teddy bear with Trump hair, orange Trump hair, which you then, you can comb it. And then if you zip him open, an American flag comes out. It's like, it's one of the most unbelievable products I've ever seen. Like, this has got to be a collectible.
$35 for this thing. Your limited edition Trumpy Bear, $32.95.
What do you think? Is this a collectible? Is this something or is it just something that'll clutter everything up?
No, it is a collectible. It's totally a collectible, and it would go into the political collections that end up in museums usually. With all the other stuff that's associated, bumper stickers, buttons, pennants, wall hangings. There's a lot of them, and they're collectible. The problem with collecting this stuff is not a near-term collection. This is you're in it for the long haul.
Oh yeah, you got to hold on to it. Yeah, you got to hold on to this puppy.
I do have a collection of some political stuff, including a box.
A box?
A box of Kennedy bumper stickers from 1960. I guess it's 62.
Wow.
No, 64.
What do they say?
Or 62 is 60. No, it's 60, 1960. It says Kennedy. It's in a very distinctive font. And I must have 100 of them. And I don't know, somewhere along the lines, I just grabbed 100 of them, put them in a box, and I've somehow kept it since 1960. Wow. And they're still good. I think it'd be funny to have a Kennedy bumper sticker on your car. But they're only, even as collectibles, they're worth maybe $5 a piece, maybe $1. It's hard to say.
See, that's what I love about you. Because he's like, I'm holding on to them anyway. One day they'll be worth money, damn it. $5 today is $7 tomorrow.
I'd dump them in a minute.
Yeah, if you could get that kind of money for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. There was something odd. Associated Press reported the day before the State of the Union, which was also picked up by the Washington Post, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg made her first public appearance since undergoing lung cancer surgery in December.
Yeah.
So what they claim is that, and she wasn't at the State of the Union, we saw her absence. 85-year-old Ginsburg is attending a concert at a museum a few blocks from the White House that is being given by her daughter-in-law and other musicians. The concert is dedicated to Ginsburg's life in law. She had surgery in New York on December 21st. She missed arguments at the court, her first illness-related absence in more than 25 years. The justice sat in the back of the darkened auditorium at the National Museum of Women in the Arts. The National Constitution Center, which sponsored the concert, did not permit photography. Well, interestingly, there's tons of photos from this event, tons of them on Instagram, everywhere, and not a single one of Ginsburg. And this just fuels conspiracy theories.
I think, and well, it should. They've got to keep, at least they have to keep
it going.
They got to keep her, quote unquote, alive. She's alive. They have to keep her alive for 2 years, even though she may not be alive.
Okay. They got to keep her alive for, well, no, I think they can do it for a year, and then they can stall
Oh yeah, then they can stall with the argument that although with the Senate being really run by Republicans, they may not be able to completely stall. I mean, they'll try to stall like they did with this last guy, Kavanaugh.
Right.
But they have to do that. So now it's going to be people on the lookout for her. She's got to show up somewhere.
Producer Seth, and I put it all in the show notes. He has this. I mean, this is like
they can find a lookalike, by the way, and get away with that.
They should. Yeah. Producer Seth.
There are old ladies out there that look like her.
Producer Seth did a huge rundown with links and everything, to back up his assertion that she's dead, and that this is being covered up by the fake news media. That was here. Washington Post says the same thing. Makes her first appearance, and this was a day before the State of the Union. And then we heard nothing after that. I didn't even hear anyone talking about her not being there. Nor was Clarence Thomas.
Well,
but yeah, I think you're right. You have to keep her, quote unquote, alive for at least a year. Okay, the watch is on. And you'll see what happens.
It's like that weekend at Weekend at Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's, yeah. Weekend at Bernie's. That's about right.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
I'm just going to coin a little term here. I'm not quite sure even if it's the right term yet, but we need something like living the app life or app society. I think living the app life may be better because, this is what a lot of young people are doing and is living their lives through apps, such as IKEA, who have just announced that they will have an app very similar to Uber, where you'll be able to rent furniture from IKEA. This is how bad it must be.
Oh,
you wondered how the economy was doing? Yes. And I think the next step is you rent someone else's IKEA furniture. It's coming. It's coming. This is pretty sad. This sad state of affairs. And then this happened in Austin.
Many electric scooter riders and drivers extra aware of their surroundings tonight after hearing about a crash that sent a scooter rider to the hospital with a head injury.
Yeah, this happened last night at I-35 and 6th Street. Police say the person on the scooter was at fault, going the wrong way on the frontage road. KXAN's Eugene Cho discovered some new information about the car involved and also spoke with people who ride scooters about how they're trying to stay safe.
I talked to the owner of that car that was involved in this crash here at this very busy intersection. He told me he was actually renting out his car through an app called Hire Car. He said the driver who was driving his car through this app is shocked and upset.
So this is a fantastic situation. I'd like to know how it works with the insurance. So you have someone who used an app to rent an electric scooter, was then hit by someone using an app to rent someone else's car. I mean, it sounds like
we're dealing with the future.
We are living the future. But who's responsible? Who pays for what? Where does the insurance come in?
Well, first of all, whoever was at fault is supposed to pay for everything. And the insurance company typically is supposed to orchestrate that scenario.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. I can't wait to see if anything comes of this.
Well, something's got to come of it, but it does bring up an issue that needs to be addressed, which is people renting bikes and renting scooters and not having a helmet in a state that requires helmets.
We don't require helmets.
We do in California.
I know this.
I don't see anyone on a scooter with a helmet on.
This happened in Austin. No,
I see these people in a lot of homeless on the bicycle, and they've got no helmet.
Okay. Do you want to go talk to him about it?
Hey, buddy, where's your helmet?
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh, yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
So we do have a few people to thank for show 1110, starting with Matthew Lomar in Elwood, Illinois, $150.22. Thank you. Eric Harvey in San Diego. He wants some general No Agenda karma. We'll put that at the end for you. $101.01. Ron H. Williams, $100. What does he say? Thank you for what you do. Now I look at news this way: real news, just words adding to a narrative. Another "we're going to die" story. Another ad. Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. You got it. You nailed it.
Nailed it.
James Gilkison.
Gilkison.
Yeah, Gilkison. Sorry, $100. Thanks for the analysis. He's got a birthday coming up. Nicholas Formoso, $100. Cameron Dodd in Pearland, Texas, $100. Dude named Ben from Kansas, $100. Keep up the great work. Surveillance, one of the great names out there. VAYLENCE in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Hold on, he sent me a separate note. He has he has a birthday shout out to his NA woke daughter. He sent me a picture of her. She's in the Air Force. She's learning to fly, and she wants to fly the B-52s, and it looks like she's on a path to achieving that.
Huh.
Yeah.
So they're taking that plane out of service someday.
Sent a picture of her, in a training fighter. It's pretty badass. Yeah, we have her on the list, absolutely. And we'll add a. Oh, he wants a Trump's Pelosi jobs karma for her. So I'm gonna have to do that now because most people don't want that combo. So here it comes.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And he is a knight, so
that is not a recommended.
No, but that's what he wanted. So, yeah.
Well, we don't recommend that for reasons that were just expressed on previous shows. Russell Rhodes, 6789. Martin Krupka in Geneva, Florida. 5510. Michael Gates, 5280. Meyer Kleinwalks in Casa Grande, Arizona, 5150. Some more good health karma. We'll put that at the end. Juho Vida or Vlita Salo. Vlita Salo, you think?
No, it's Juho Vita Salo. And he's from the BJ Consulting Group out there in Osaka. So they're wishing a happy birthday to Sir Bill of Osaka. It's his birthday today.
No, it looks like he's in Finland. And now we have $50 donors. We don't have a very big list today. Hopefully, show 1111 will produce more donations. And we're looking for the 11 squared $121 donation. Anonymous 50.
Yeah, hold on. It's important. Donated in honor of Joe Salashore's birthday. Please make sure it's on the list. I think this yes. It's important to read that. Next.
Todd Moore in Arlington, Virginia. Victor Munoz in Miami, Florida. Andrew Martin in Sydney, New South Wales. Australia, Jonathan Meyer in Xenia, Ohio. Edward Mazurek in Memphis, Tennessee. A lot of Tennesseans. Matthew Januszewski in Chicago, Illinois. Sir Matthew, I believe. And Heather Rodriguez in Stockton, California. Paul Van Cordelaar in IJmuiden.
Close, IJmuiden.
IJmuiden, the Netherlands. And last but not least, one of my favorite names amongst all our producers, Villarreal in Mercedes, Texas.
Villarreal and his golden vuvuzela.
And we want to thank all these folks for helping produce show 1110 and keeping this thing going.
Yes. And also thank you, everyone under 50 who came in to be completely certifiably anonymous, and also people who are on our subscriptions. You can get a nice sampling of what you can subscribe to support the work, or you can just give us anything you want. I mean, that's the whole point. It's value for value. What did you get out of the show? What is it worth to you?
Corvettes welcome.
Corvettes. No, I don't want a Corvette.
Yeah, I do.
Got a note from Dame Jennifer. As you know, Sir Greg passed away, and we discussed this on the show and dedicated the previous show to him. She had a GoFundMe set up, but she wanted me to know that Greg's family and her, they've received enough funds from the GoFundMe to cover the necessary expenses for his service, and will be closing the fundraiser, so no need to mention it. There are details for those who'd like to be at his memorial celebration. It'll be on February 16th, 10 o'clock in the morning at the CETES, the CETES Conference Center on the Cameron University campus in Lawton, Oklahoma. The service is open to anyone who wishes to come to pay their respects. Should you mention this on the show, welcome to provide my email address. You can contact her at jennifer.wieda, W-I-E-D-A, @gmail.com. And I'd love to go up. What day is that? What day is the 16th? It's always like a show day or something. What day is the 16th?
What day is the 16th? I'll tell you what day the 16th is. The 16th
Saturday.
Is
Saturday.
A Saturday.
Got it. It'd be great to see how far it is. Anyway, so I know a lot of people, like Craig a lot, and so I'm sure that there will be people showing up for sure. Then we have a special request. Night Jobs, Karma Sir Beavenhour. Writing this email for convo with a lifelong friend, fellow No Agenda listener about our jobs. I'm a dude named Ben whose boss just left and has an opportunity to forge my own path forward. My friend Jerry has an interview tomorrow for a finance job at Department of Defense. We both need all the jobs karma we can get, so please add us to the list. We're going to do that for you right now and for anyone else who needs it.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Dvorak.org/NA.
And here we go. It's the birthday list for today. It is the 7th of February, 2019. We say happy birthday to Martin Krupa. He turned 40 yesterday. John Davis, known as Sir Valence, says happy birthday to his daughter, Lieutenant Kim. She celebrates today on her way to that B-52. We want joyrides. James Gilkson, happy birthday to his brother Tom, celebrating today. Also today is Sir Bill of Osaka. Happy birthday from Yuho Vitasalo. Anonymous says happy birthday to Joe Salashur. February 7th, his birthday. Russell Rhodes, happy birthday to his son Vikram, turns 9 tomorrow. And Catherine says happy birthday to Bill Walsh, Sir Saturday night. Happy birthday from all of us here at the best podcast in the universe. Woohoo! Okay, meetups before we get to our nightings. A reminder, noagendameetups.com is where you can get all the information. Des Moines, Iowa. Adam Curry and the Keeper will be, and now I don't have the actual venue, but that's on noagendameetups.com. February 22nd, we're looking forward to that. March 2nd, the big Texas meetup in Austin kicks off at 3:33 p.m. at Austin Beer Works. And March 3rd, we have, I think this is DC Girls gig, the Arlington, Maryland, the Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. meetup in Arlington, Virginia at Cafe Pizzaiolo, Shirlington. It's in the show notes, so you can go look it up there. Again, noagendameetups.com. You can also start one if you want to, and we want to try and get at least one a month, and John and I are trying to get out to a couple of these because it's fun. It's fun, and it's good to meet people.
Meet some pretty interesting people.
And you got to, it's good.
In fact, you get to meet very interesting people. It's not like, it's pretty unusual, to be honest about it.
No slubs. No scrubs, no slubs. No scrubs, no slubs. No, interesting people, and it's also incredibly healthy. Because, we don't even see each other. That's probably healthy. But
yeah, definitely.
Definitely. To see and meet people and have human contact, there's tons of
once in a while, not a bad idea. Although you can accomplish some of that by going to Costco.
Only you, John C. Dvorak. Only you. Oh, wait, get your blade out so we can do these nightings.
The blade here.
Yeah, I got it. Good. Yeah, we got the blade. Hey, Eric Henry. Stefan Arrett, step on up. Both of you are about to join the elusive and exclusive roundtable of the No Agenda Knights and Dames, thanks to your contribution, the amount of $1,000 or more. And I am therefore very proud to pronounce Sir Zombie Slave and Sir Stefan of Swabia. As requested, hookers and blow, rent boys and Chardonnay, warm beer and cold women, zucchini and meatloaf. We got fish pie and fellatio, redheads and rye. We got beer and blunts, even some breast milk and pablum, Rubenesque women and rosé, bong hits and bourbon, ginger ale and gerbils, sparkling cider and escorts, and effervescent as always, mutton and mead. Welcome to the round table, gentlemen. Both of you are now official knights. You'll get your signet ring, your sealing wax, and your certificate. By giving Eric the Shill all your details, go to noagendanation.com/rings, and Eric will take care of all of that for you. Thank you all very much for supporting us at Dvorak.org/NA. visit us for our big 11/11 show on Sunday. A lot of excitement for that. Big lucky numbers. Big lucky numbers. I did want to do a little climate change stuff.
Okay, you going to open the climate gate?
Yeah, it doesn't feel right, the climate gate, because, this is not, that was, how many years ago was the climate gate?
Years ago.
Well, we'll do it anyway.
To the climate gate.
Yeah, I thought I'd give us a little view. And with all this, you typically have clips from the United States about climate change and we're all going to die. And,
in 12 years.
Well,
make sure that you mention the 12 years.
Producer Simon got put together a couple of clips for us from BBC's breakfast show, Radio 5. It's hoity-toity. So, this is intelligence abound there on Radio 5. And let's share some of the current information refining that is going on in the United Kingdom of Gitmo East.
First off, let's go on about the myth busting and the myth that this ain't happening or it's not man-made or human responsibility. There's quite a lot of this online, and it goes all the way up to President Trump, who notoriously said that there is no such thing as climate change. It's all a Chinese conspiracy to attack American capitalism. And you see it from commentators online. But the BBC quite responsibly now, it's like evolution, and no equivalence is given to the naysayers because the science is overwhelming, isn't it, Carly?
Overwhelming!
Yeah, you're quite right. And I think in some ways talking about it as a myth and kind of raising attention of it again implies that there is some sort of, some equalness to these two sides. And there just absolutely isn't. The evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah. So don't have anyone on who is a contrarian. It's overwhelming. There should be no equivalence at all. Maybe we've reached some form of tipping point.
What's absolutely clear about climate change is that it's a big problem and it's urgent and we all absolutely need to do something about it. But what? So there's no absolute certainty over the timescales. Sometimes we've been hearing recently about a 12-year timescale, and in some ways that's useful to think about.
Wait, I thought we were going to die in 12 years. Now it's just useful to think about?
But nobody really knows whether 10 years might be a timescale that we've got before something really nasty, before we start tipping a feedback mechanism that makes quite nasty things happen in our climate, or whether we've got 15 years, or whether we've already gone over that tipping point.
Bullshit! I don't know what kind of bullshit it is, but he's got no idea at all, and he's not completely with the program, because the 12 years is death. Death, man, I tell you.
So much to get into, more coming up later on. But just very quickly, do you both despair about the fact that this is, in America, there is a certain strain of evangelical thinking which says this is not happening because God would not let this happen?
Where is that?
What?
This is a lie. I've show me one report with one evangelical code for nut jobs. Because,
holy
God,
mackerel, that's a good one.
Forbid you have any faith. Let's listen to the whole thing. It's only 10 seconds. Here, I'll play it from the beginning. That was pretty lame.
So much to get into, more coming up later on. But just very quickly, do you both despair about the fact that this is, in America, there is a certain strain of evangelical thinking which says this is not happening because God would not let this happen. And it's not just a minority report. These people are in the White House. In rational terms, do we need a new president for the planet?
Yeah, you need a new broadcasting system, you dork. That's despicable.
Let him play that again, because I thought he said president of the planet.
Oh, let me see. Let's play it. Hold on.
In rational terms, do we need a new president for the planet?
You're right. It's for the planet. President Planet.
We need a new president for the planet.
Yes. So,
well, these guys are all in on one world government.
Yeah, and also ridiculing religion with a lie. Have you ever heard someone say,
I have not heard that
God
ever.
wouldn't have this? I think the opposite would be true. Hey, if God wants this, then that's what he's doing. Instead of God wouldn't let this happen. It's okay, because they have learned from our media, and they go straight into abusing children to drive home their point.
Well, it's your dad's obsession, isn't it? He's got panels on the roof, the electric car. Is he mad?
No, because it will help the world from global warming.
Do you think so?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you agree with all this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, but the thing is, your house is the only one in the street with solar panels on, isn't it? So, what difference is this making?
It helps the world from global warming, so we need to get other people to do this.
Yeah. How do you get other people to do it?
We talk to them and we let them know the consequences of it.
Do you really? Go around schools saying, "Oi, go green"?
Well, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
We need to get...
Yes?
Yeah.
All right. And so
you
two, as I understand it...
What's that?
Hitler Youth.
Well, that's coming in a moment. Stay tuned.
Oi, go green.
Well, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
We need to get...
Yes?
Yeah.
All right. And so you two, as I understand it, have never been on a plane, is that right?
No.
Not even a propeller plane?
No.
Or in a glider?
No.
Why do you think that is?
Because the fumes from the plane pollute the world.
And where do your friends go on holiday?
Well, my friends usually go to, like, Tunisia and Mexico on planes.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
We usually go to France and Germany and places like that.
Right, so you're not flying. Do you feel you're missing out at all?
Not really, but because it's quite good as it's not polluting the world.
Poor child. It's never going to
Poor
go anywhere.
kid.
You were talking about the Hitler Jugend? No,
Yeah,
it's
the
called
Hitler Jugend.
No, it's the European Youth for Climate Action. What the elites in Brussels have seen is the great success of the truants out there now for 4 weeks. Kids protesting something, as long as they're bundled up warmly. They got shawls and hats and gloves to yell against global warming. And now they have, wait for this name, they have created a new European Union initiative which creates opportunities for young people in the European Solidarity Corps. How about that?
That's Hitler Youth.
That's why I'm bringing it up. You just said it. Only it's not called Hitler Youth. It's called European Solidarity Corps. And they will have a budget of more than, I'm reading directly from the European Union press release, more than 340 million euros to cover a that's almost €500 million to cover a broad range of activities. With this overall budget, the European Solidarity Corps could dedicate over 40 million to creating volunteering opportunities in the areas of environment and climate action by 2020.
Yeah, they can throw a rock through your window if you don't have solar panels.
An important focus will be on getting the right skills and competencies for the labor market of the future, especially in the growth sector of green jobs.
Yeah, tell that to Kleiner Perkins.
New projects under the European Youth for Climate Action can cover a wide range of activities, from training youth workers to reuse and recycle materials, motivating youngsters.
Oh, you're going to be on that line, standing there, going through bottles.
Motivating youngsters to use smartphone applications to save energy. What?
Okay, what?
Let me read the whole thing. Hold on. Motivating youngsters to use smartphone applications to save energy, stimulating the spirit of green entrepreneurship to developing skills in sustainable agriculture, sustainable industry, or the tertiary sector, such as green tourism, marketing, and education. Additional funding transferred from other EU programs to could create additional opportunities. You're right. This is the Hitler Jugend, the European Solidarity Corps, the ESC. Write it down. There'll be a logo. Hello. ESC here. We're here to check and see if you're green. Do they not see? Do they not see that this is?
They're going to have a sash and an armband.
Armbands are in, baby. Well, now back to the United States. Got a note from one of our producers. My daughter, 9, is in the school play this semester. She says to me, Dad, wait until I show you the script. They changed the story. It doesn't make any sense. They're doing the, what was it, the Ice Princess? What was the Disney movie with, the Ice Princess? Oh, now I can't.
Springtime for Hitler?
No. Troll Room, help me out. The big one with Let It Go. Frozen. Thank you. Frozen. Dad, they changed the story. It doesn't make any sense. How can Elsa's powers stop global warming? Arendelle isn't even a real place. This is just pandering. So he sent me a copy.
His 9-year-old said this?
Well, that's what he wrote.
Yeah.
He sent me a copy of page 17 and 18. And if you've seen the movie, then you know the story, but I'll just read a little bit. Elsa says, but this power, it's too harmful. I don't want to hurt you, Anna. Anna says, you've been hurting me for years, Elsa. You have shut yourself away from me and the world. We are sisters. Sisters are joined, heart to heart. Anna and Elsa embrace. Elsa says, look, Anna, you're not frozen. We really are joined at the heart. Makes a heart sign. Anna, don't be afraid of the power. Use it for good. Elsa, for good? How can I use it for good? Olaf, ever heard of global warming? Snow and ice are melting at our polar ice caps. With your power, maybe you could stop the melting. Frankly, some things are worth melting for, but I want to stick around and see how this story ends. Elsa, wow, I can use this power for good to help people all over the world? That's powerful.
That's not in the original script. They got to rewrite artists at the school?
Yeah, but it's like the Lear Foundation is at the grade level now.
At the grade level, rewriting classic scripts.
It's just no.
I wonder what they're going to do with Romeo and Juliet.
Meanwhile, the news came out that 2018 was sadly not the hottest year on record. Only the 4th hottest year. This is a break. They could not fudge it. This is NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
This may be part of them backing off.
Yes, sir. It's something we've identified. Now it's just the 4th hottest year on record. It used to be the hottest year ever, hottest year ever, hottest year ever. But I think it's kind of hard to get away with saying that when you have electric car owners noticing that their vehicles lose about 40% of their range in this bitter cold.
In the blizzard.
Yes. And Tesla owners who don't live in sunny, warm California are very disappointed in their Model 3 vehicles where the door handles freeze. You know, the door handles on the Tesla, they pop out?
Yeah.
They can't pop out because they're frozen.
Yeah.
So you can't
don't know what to do about it.
You can't open the car.
Do what you do in the Midwest. You take a cup of hot water and throw it on the handle. It'll open.
Oh, it doesn't.
You guys are hopeless.
It doesn't make it fun to bitch and moan about it. Then I have 2 kind of techie stories. Google is now claiming.
Are we leaving the Climate Gate?
Do you want to close it?
Well, if you're gonna close it, you gotta close it.
Well, okay, I'll close the Climate Gate then. Okay, that was worth it. I'll give it to you. When it comes to machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence, I've been very skeptical, and one of my main mantras has been, why don't you fix my email? If you can have machine learning look at my email and make it work and give me things I absolutely want when I want them, then I will have some belief in your artificial intelligence. And Google now announces that here's the headline. What are you doing?
Well, I'm just saying this bull crap, whatever you're going to read by Google.
Spam does not bring us joy. Ridding Gmail of 100 million more spam messages with TensorFlow. Now, TensorFlow is their...
TensorFlow?
That's their open source machine learning framework.
Oh, brother.
And right away...
That means more of the newsletter is going to be put to promotions.
Yes, it's true. Right away, people were complaining that PayPal security notices were going to spam. Sounds like that TensorFlow is doing its job. You know, when someone logs into your PayPal account, it sends you a security message. Now, that's going to spam. We'll be routed to spam, no doubt. But they're saying that they can do it.
Sure they can.
Machine learning makes catching spam possible by helping us identify patterns in large data sets that humans who create the rules might not catch. It makes it easy for us to adapt quickly to ever-changing spam attempts. Okay. Well, yeah.
There's really nothing new in spam. I mean, what's the latest? Everyone gets some spam somehow. I mean, I don't get much because I get no spam. But I looked in the spam boxes. The creativity of the spammers is not what it once was. You know, they used to encode certain kinds of characters that the spam filter would miss, and so you get this crazy stuff. It's just there's not that much of it. And the other thing about spam is nobody cares if some of it's pushed to the spam box. You're sending out millions of messages. You only need a few to get through.
Right. Except it hurts because we get trapped in there.
Yeah, I think almost anyone who has a newsletter gets trapped.
And then,
which is one of the reasons you want email, so they can get their newsletter. They subscribe. Somebody subscribes to the newsletter, and it goes into spam. They subscribe to it, and then a lot of guys say, "Well, I whitelisted it. I've tried to do everything, but it keeps going to promotions or spam promotions usually."
Yeah.
And it's a hit and miss. Why? Because there's a couple. I have about 5 people that are looking at this that constantly send me a note. Just tell me where it went, and it's like no reason it should have done that.
Right.
But whatever.
And then we got a note from a producer who goes by the name of Hacker 1000. And it's just reiterating something we've talked about, we've witnessed ourselves, we've known about, and just wanted him to weigh in and say, hey, you know, I've been working as a freelance video editor in New York City since 2014. It has now become painfully clear that all digital media companies, and he's talking about ones like, Viacom, are buying fake views for their online videos when they don't meet certain numbers. Somebody at Comedy Central told me they were doing that a year ago, but ever since I've been asking people at various companies if they buy views, so far everyone I've asked has said yes, which leads me to believe that all of the media companies are doing this for their YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if these companies are buying followers as well. All of it being done to lie to their advertisers, exaggerating numbers to secure ad buys. And he says he believes...
No surprise to us.
The constant layoffs we're seeing is because the waters are receding and the tsunami is about to hit. So, yeah, no surprise to us. And of course it's true. I wonder what the real traffic is of the internet.
I don't know, but nobody wants to look at those Apple numbers.
the Apple podcast numbers?
Yeah.
No, they're not very encouraging.
No.
At all.
For anybody.
At all. My goodness. Okay. What else you got?
I do wanted to keep up with current events. This has been my theme today.
Yeah, very good.
And I think I do have the latest Venezuela report. Good. This is from CBS, and noting the CBS history. They are all in on Venezuela overturning the government. No problem.
Yeah, if I could only find it. I got it.
Latest Venezuela.
Got it.
The U.S. wants Maduro out. Elizabeth Palmer in Caracas, the capital, reports military leaders support Maduro. The soldiers, maybe not.
What we need is Maduro to leave. We must overthrow this government.
Without the armed forces, President Nicolas Maduro is finished. So state TV broadcasts pictures almost daily showing apparently loyal troops with their commander-in-chief. But in reality, vast numbers of them, on a salary of about $6 a month, have had enough. Why are they ready to desert the president?
Because they are tired. We are suffering just like the people are. My family, for example, my salary isn't even enough to buy food.
Is this something you can talk about among yourselves in the barracks, or is it too dangerous?
If we trust the people, we talk about what's going on in the country, but the higher ranks don't know what we're talking about. That is why I'm doing the interview like this, to protect myself.
To convince soldiers and their brass to defect to the opposition, Juan Guaido, widely recognized as interim president, has offered them an amnesty. But the rank and file need more than that. What will it take to get you to change sides?
In the National Guard, all we need is a high-ranking general to rebel, to lead the way.
The next big test for the Army will be in the coming days when large quantities of humanitarian aid, much of it sent by the United States, reach Venezuela's border. President Maduro has ordered the military not to let it in, and everybody is watching to see whether or not they obey.
Now, this is CBS.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think they'd be involved in this through their CIA connections.
Well, I think this was messaging. I think it was done to indicate that one of you generals is going to make out on this if you are the one.
Right.
This whole
yeah, and we know that the military has been given guaranteed visas, U.S. visas, to remain loyal. So, yeah, I think you're right. That's like, hey, anyone out there? You know, we just need one guy. One guy.
And we'll support you.
Whatever you need.
Make you very comfortable. So just somebody do it. So I figure within the next week, one of the generals will break away.
Could be, yeah. That's definitely a good signal. Good catch.
The other thing going on, current events wise, is
I think this should be last. We got some good mixes. We're running on a road.
Okay,
here.
Well, then I'm going to skip this.
Okay.
On measles. I'll put it to the next show.
Okay.
But I might as well put in that woman, that crazy Hawaiian, Hirono, whatever her name is.
Yeah, she's the she's senator or representative?
No, she's a congressman.
Congressman, yeah.
But she might be a senator because this was one of these hearings for somebody becoming a federal judge, which only takes part in the Senate. It must be. I'll have to look it up, and I forgot. I should know. But anyway, she somehow brings in dwarf tossing.
What?
As a topic of conversation, and of course makes a fool out of herself in the process.
Here's an actual situation. I think you responded to something that happened in France. Where they made dwarf tossing illegal, and I think that you said something like, it's up to them whether this is an individual decision, but why wouldn't?
Is she having a seizure? What is going on with her?
This is the woman, she's always sighing.
But but first of all,
she's like a teenager.
It's little people throwing, not dwarf tossing. Little people throwing. That's very un-PC.
It would seem as though your writing about dignitary harm would apply to something like dwarf tossing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Senator, thank you for the opportunity to clarify that. Again, it was I wrote about a particular case in France that used different conceptions of dignity. There was a town in France that banned dwarf throwing. There was an individual, Mr. Wackenheim, who made his living doing that, and he said that this ban affected his dignitary interests. But in my article, I don't take a position one way or another on these issues. I'm just pointing out.
I think your article has been interpreted as that you were okay with dwarf tossing. This is one of the reasons that an organization that supports their issues is very much against your nomination.
Wait. What organization is this? Is there an organization for the banning of dwarf tossing?
I guess.
I want to be a member of this club. This is very important stuff. Macy Hirono. Maisie Hirono.
Maisie.
Vote these people out.
Oh, she's the worst.
What are they doing, man? Special thanks to Fletcher, Carolyn Blaney, Sir Chris Wilson, Cyborg Dave, Tom Starkweather, Rulfi Productions, all of them contributing to end-of-show mixes on today's program, and I think they're pretty dynamite. And so we appreciate that. And thank you all for being here for episode 1110. And consider supporting the show for 1111, which is coming up on Sunday, our 1111th episode. And we never had a fight. Coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA region number 6 on the governmental maps in the 5x9 Cludio in the common law condo. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where the sun is out, Mimi's up in Washington, snowed in because of global warming. Not much I can do about that. I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Sunday for 11:11. Remember us at Dvorak.org/today. Until then, adios, mofos! And such.
Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, bringing it to you twice a week because the man is under attack from the folks in the media that call themselves the mainstream on the left and the right, but it's all the same thing.
The No Agenda Show with Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak, live every Sunday and Thursday, 12 p.m., 11 Central. On NoAgendaStream.com.
Thank God for these two gentlemen right here. They've been killing it for over 10 years. Media assassination and deconstruction, helping to maintain that cerebral function. When your friends see you walking in the mall, they say,
damn, your amygdala small.
Then you can follow up with formula propagation, convincing them to make a recurring donation to Dvorak.org/NA. And that's the last motherfucking thing that I am gonna say. Dvorak.org/NA. 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 Dvorak.org/NA.
If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. Foolish wars, politics, it just doesn't work that way. Foolish wars, politics, and the only thing that can stop it, foolish wars, politics. If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation.
Party at the Taco Bell. Party at the disco. Party at the gates of hell.
Don't you want to know how we keep building towers?
It's my desire.
It's my desire.
It's my desire. Don't you want to know how we keep building towers? It's my desire.
It's my desire.
It's my desire. Danger, danger. High voltage. When we text. When we tweet.
Danger, danger. High voltage. When we text. When we tweet. When we text.
Danger, danger. High voltage. When we text. And when we tweet. Danger, danger. High voltage.
When we text.
When we tweet.
When we text.
And when we tweet.
Order! Stop blowing on that recorder until you've made some effort to learn how to play. What?
No, that's really
Wait
mean.
a minute. That's an insult. I play this thing like I'm the Benny Goodman.
Hit it, baby. See? We're a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, no kidding.
The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
Shame, 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 shame.